Yes, here we are as we get you set for the NFC preview here for the National Football League. I'm Johnny Montalbano from Game On's Montie Moments, joined by Tom Albano and Nick Morgasen from Empty the Bench, Hank Indictor from Hidden for the Cycle, and we just came off yesterday previewing the AFC. This time we get you ready for the AFC, and we also will have our postseason and our award predictions as well. Well, guys, we're a little over a week away from the start of the NFL season. And it's an exciting time, as we all know. And, of course, before we get started, we want to remind you guys to please follow us across all of our social media handles at Game On ETB, at ETB Sports, at HFTC ETB, and all of our accounts as well. ETB Network, that is on X, also on Facebook as well. Of course, please check out our YouTube channel, youtube.com/ETB Network, or if you like our videos, please leave us a like. If you're new, hit that subscribe button, and of course, more than ever, have your notifications set so you know when all of our content is going to be coming out. Well, guys, as you know, the AFC was quite a ride, and the NFC's got a lot of great storylines as well. So, are we all ready to do this thing?
Let's go.
Yep.
All right, and just like we did at the AFC, we started west to east. We're going to do the same thing here in the NFC. So we get it going with the NFC West, and we get it going with the Arizona Cardinals. And the big story with the Cardinals starting this season, no Kyler Murray to start. So, and already look at some of those losses. I mean, not only Kyler Murray for the first, who knows how long of the season, but also J.J. Watt retiring, DeAndre Hopkins going to Tennessee. Guys, I mean, the thing, they got Paris Johnson in the draft, but I got to tell you, I mean, there's some things that you almost can make guarantees for in this season. I think we could pretty much lock up the fact that we think that the Arizona Cardinals are going to be the worst team in the NFL this season. Is that far of a reach?
No, I think we're all in agreement on that one. And I'll be very honest, Johnny, because heading into this week that we're recording this, the original plan had seemed to be that Colt McCoy was going to be elevated to the starter role for the time that Kyler Murray was on the bench. And then they made that trade for Joshua Dobbs. The thought was either David Blah or Jeff Driscoll was going to get removed, but no, it's Colt McCoy who gets cut. And all these moves with the quarterback, Johnny, I mean, they also traded away Isaiah to the Giants because
Isaiah Simmons, yep.
Yeah, for a 7th-round pick, which is robbery of the freaking offseason. As much as he hasn't played up to his true draft potential, a 7th-round pick is absolute insanity. And I just don't, number one, it tells me it's a clear tanking move. Now, obviously, we can't, you can't say that players who are running onto the field giving everything they've got are tanking. So that's not fair on them. But it is fair on what a franchise is, trying to put a competitive team out there or not. And number two, the reason part of that, Johnny, is because of all those little quarterback moves. Something's telling me they know that it's going to be a lot longer than 4 to 6 weeks of college. Something's telling me he may not play this whole season.
Well, the thing with that, Tom, is Murray injured his knee in week 14 last season. So when you think about it, and trying to just even compare it to the news that we got out of the AFC with one Von Miller. Vaughn hurt himself late last season too, and he got put on the PUP list, meaning he's going to miss at least the first 4 weeks, and he's kind of an older guy. But Kyler Murray, who we know is a very mobile guy, likes to run around a lot. I mean, it's awfully late, and when the injury happened, it was awfully late for him to get hurt and think he's going to be ready for the start of the season. So, I don't know when you're going to see him back. I mean, yes, a lot of football players tear their ACLs, and it seems like they come back a little bit quicker than in years past. But this is a mobile quarterback that, that could be the future. That we don't know if the Cardinals want to keep him for the future. We know they gave him a lot of money, extended him for a lot of money. So I don't know what they're going to do. But the options. That's right. The options, though, are not that great. I mean, they got Josh Dobbs, who they traded for 4 days before they had to release their roster to 53 players. As you said, they released Colt McCoy on Monday. The other, it could now be Josh Dobbs for week 1 against the Washington Commanders, or it could be their their 5th-round pick in quarterback Clayton Tune. And boy, I can tell you right now, if we have Clayton Tune, if we are announcing a week from Friday on our Football Friday picks that Clayton Tune is starting, I think we're gonna have you guys are gonna have a lot of fun with your sound effects there.
Well,
but not looking too pretty over there in Arizona.
I mean, I'm going to do this for the first time in our previews, but I mean, this team is going to be the worst team in football. And by the way, going back to Kyler Murray, he is the most drama king or drama queen, trying just to be careful just because of all the views of today. But drama king out there. This man basically changed out all his Twitter and Instagram photos because he wasn't getting a contract from the Cardinals. By the way, I think he got like $45 million a year, if I'm not mistaken. And this guy's not worth $45 million. This guy's not worth $4.5 million a year, for crying out loud. This guy hasn't proven anything on the field to warrant $45 million a year. He's not a leader. I mean, do you remember back to when they first reportedly were putting the contract together that they were trying to put a homework clause in this contract? Okay, so if they had to put a homework clause in because he doesn't do film work, he doesn't go into the film room, and yes, Hank, pun intended, for film room. But my point is that he doesn't want to do the work, and he basically sat out and demanded to get paid at the highest value. Okay,
Nick, I have a song for Kyler Murray.
Oi, yeah, you're full of songs today.
Yeah. He don't want to work. He just want to throw the football all day. Do.
I mean, this team's a joke. This team is going to be a joke. The over-under is 3.5. And actually, I don't think that's that far off, to be honest.
We had a number that low before. I'm trying to remember.
Yes.
The Falcons might have been.
No, 2. I'm giving them 2 wins this season, and they're the worst team in football.
I think the worst team in football is not a reach. I think I can only think of one other team, and we'll get to them in just a little while. By the way, welcome aboard, Jonathan Gannon, new head coach there, former defensive coordinator of the Eagles, who got a 5-year deal. Well, when the weird thing with Kyler, just go back to Kyler for 1 second here. So it's not really this year where the contract really starts getting a hit, but in 2024 he's due to make $37 million, which would be the biggest one, and then it's 18 and 25, 22.8 in 2026, 19.5 in 2027. He has a potential out in 28, but it's also the cap hits. Dead cap this year of $97 million. He's got a $51+ million hit in 2024. So what do you do if you're the Cardinals? I mean, especially if you look ahead to next year's draft for just 1 second, the top 2 picks could be both quarterbacks next year.
I mean, their whole situation is a joke. And by the way, did you see what Jonathan Gannon said in his press conference, by the way?
I did not.
So he basically came out and said, I'm not naming a starting quarterback to keep a, quote, competitive advantage.
Well, you've been seeing that in college a little bit with a couple of teams.
What competitive advantage? The Cardinals have no competitive advantage. Their competitive advantage is sitting on the sidelines deciding to do film work because he can't play.
What do you mean? No, you said no competitive advantage, Nick. I think the real question is, what advantage do the Cardinals have, if any advantage at all?
Zero.
Thank
you. Zero.
As far as undergoes, can I do my Animal House for you?
Yes.
0.0.
0.
Wait, you have the Cardinals going 0-17.
No, I'm kidding. I just wanted to say 0.0.
Okay.
No, I'm going to say maybe 2 or 3, and that's probably me just being nice.
So that's under. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in other words, the Arizona Cardinals are going to hit this.
Here we go. First game show reference of the preview.
Or lose a turn. Either way works.
Well,
Actually, I'll have a sound effect though.
I'll give you one more. You know what the Cardinals are going to be?
Yeah.
So, Johnny, let me ask you this question too. By the way, while we're on the game show references, would you say that I think it was Steve Keim who signed the contract, the guy who just stepped down, the guy who got in trouble for DUIs? Would you say that he ran out of money to buy vowels when extending Kyler Murray?
Yes, I think so.
Are we all in the under?
I'll give you another good game show reference. Ready? He's trying to get out of debt.
Ah.
Ooh. Good one, right? We haven't used that one before.
You know what it is, though? You know.
Go ahead, Nick. I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say that. You know what? This team like makes me like just so confused. It makes me just wanna.
Get back there. They're in the red.
Like they just make me like confused. Are we all on the under though? There.
Yes.
We're gonna take the under. And by the way, the same. They went 2-1. How about this? They went 2-1 in the preseason. Will they win more than 2 games?
No.
And one other thing before we go, because we were talking about it with the AFC preview with the Chiefs maybe not being an underdog in any of their games. Are the Cardinals going to be favorites in any games this year?
I'll pull up the schedule if you want.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. Right now, it's hard to see them being favored against anybody. I mean, I could see.
I could have sworn they played the Patriots.
No, not the Patriots. I don't think they'd be a favorite.
They don't play New England this year.
They don't play New England. There was a team I was looking. There was a team that are. I could have sworn there was a game where DraftKings had the Cardinals as a favorite, but I forget.
Tom, the only game I could see them as of right now, as we sit here in late August, that they could be a favorite against, could be the Atlanta Falcons in week 10.
That's it. It was the Falcons. It was the Falcons.
I wouldn't sleep on the Falcons though. I don't think they're a bad team.
I agree. I wouldn't sleep on them.
Perhaps because the game is in Arizona, that would be the only reason why you would do it. And maybe they're a 1 to 2 point favorite, but this is us 12 weeks out, so we'll see. But yeah, take the under with Arizona.
Would you throw Houston in there?
No, I think Houston, like I said in the AFC preview, I think Houston could potentially at most be a 7-win team, and Houston's better on offense, and I like them on defense too. And I like them, and I wouldn't even give them the head coaching advantage right now, even with the new guy.
I mean, they have so many games that they're going to lose. Like they have Philly, they have Seattle.
I mean, barring some catastrophic injuries to some of these guys, that could be the only way. But as we sit here right now, I mean, maybe they play spoiler and beat Cleveland in a game. You know, that could be it.
That was the one game I was actually looking at.
Right? I mean, that could be it. But right now, as I sit here, I'm looking at maybe 2 wins tops and maybe a favorite in possibly one of those 17 games. But let's get to the Los Angeles Rams. You know, another team. This was a team that was decimated by injuries last season. You know, they coming off winning the Super Bowl 2 years ago and then completely hammered by injuries. And, you know, this
look at all those key additions, Johnny.
Well, that's what I'm going to say. It wasn't much better of an offseason for the Rams. You know, not only just the one addition, but losing Jalen Ramsey, Bobby Wagner, Allen Robinson, Baker Mayfield. Is that really a departure, a key loss? I don't know.
No, but I mean, but even you look at the lines. I mean, Taylor Rapp, David Long, Greg Gaines. They lost quite a few pieces.
They lost a lot of their line too.
Now, granted, you look at the draft selections, and they didn't have a first-round pick, and they're not going to have a first-round pick until infinity and beyond. But with what they were able to get in Steve Avila, Brian Young, Kobe Turner, Nick Hampton, and then, of course, one of the wide receivers that, you know, is in the Dynasty fantasy talks is being talked up as potentially a potential breakouter, Puka Nacua.
Yep. I don't know how to see this team though.
Well, the additions to the Rams this year could be health because Cooper Kupp was injured last year and missed some time. They went through a ton of injuries last year. I think Donald was out. You know, Stafford was out for some time.
Their running back situation is kind of a mess, though, because they can't get someone consistent.
No.
And also, their wide receiver, their best wide receiver was Odell back a couple of years ago. I mean, like, and he got hurt. He would have been the MVP if he didn't get hurt. I mean, but I mean,
the receiver side though. I mean, if you look at it, they've got Cooper Kupp. I know he's a little bit banged up right now, but Van Jefferson, who they really never got involved last year. Tyler Higbee at the tight end spot. Cam Akers the running back. Their quarterback, we know about Stafford, and then they did draft Stetson Bennett from Georgia in the 4th round. But I mean, unless you're looking at Stafford being hurt. The only interesting thing with that would be is if Stafford did miss time, Bennett is kind of an older guy because he was in the league. He was in college for more than 4 years.
Right. And also, did you see the report, though, that Matt Stafford is having trouble getting along with younger players?
Not great. And
Apparently that came from his wife, too. He said his wife was saying that I can't get along with the younger players.
Basically he had to make and I'm talking about this with 2 words, Facebook, of all the different faces of his younger teammates, because he says they're always looking down at their phones, that he can't connect with them.
Oh, that's ridiculous.
Well, I'll tell you what, guys. I mean, I look at this team, and even though they've got the likes of Cooper Kupp and Van Jefferson and stuff, I think this offense could be a bottom 10 offense this year. Defensively, I mean, they've still got, Aaron Donald there, but there's really, I mean, the guys that were there from a couple of years ago have either moved on or are just getting older. So I can't see the Rams getting over the hump of the Seahawks and the 49ers out west. So I would take the Rams division. Yeah.
So Johnny, actually, I'm glad you brought that up, because I'm just looking around some of the preseason takes now. I know Ben Cruz, who's been on the network before, wasn't able to make it for our previews, but he had a take that really caught my eye. And he put this as his fiery hot take that involves one Aaron Donald.
Let's take a look at this.
He sees the Rams trading Aaron Donald, and he sees him going to Philadelphia midseason.
Oh, of course, because that's the last thing the Eagles need is yet another pass rush.
I'll tell you right now, if that happens, you might as well just plant a flag in Philadelphia.
Hey, you can never have too many pass rushers. I mean, I know that from the Giants. They used to have 3 or 4.
That team does that, I'm going to get like a major aneurysm.
You know what? I'll tell you right now, Ben's not crazy, though, because I could, if they're out of it, Donald, I could see being dealt. And, of course, the Eagles would always go for another defensive player. It's not, I mean.
That would be almost unfair.
I was just going to say, though, have you seen the amount of trades that Howie Roseman has pulled off?
Hey, Howie Roseman as a general manager is just unbelievable.
By the way, did you see the contract? The contract of Jalen Hurts? You saw the contract of Hurts?
Yeah, and I have to ask this question with regards to Howie. You know that scene in Home Alone Home Alone 2, where Kevin goes into the toy store?
Yes.
And he's trying to buy something? My, where did you get all that money?
Yeah, that's him. I mean, he knows how to do. As I'm going to steal a line from Johnny here, he knows how to do more with less than anybody in the league.
Yeah, but I mean, look, can't stand the Eagles. Gotta respect Howie Roseman though, what he's done with that organization. But I'm going to take the Rams third here. As far as an over under goes, let me take a look at their number.
6.5. 6.5. Yeah,
I go 5 or 6.
Okay.
Well, remember how last year the Rams said, "Hey, we're going to run it back."
Yeah, right.
This year they're going to run it back to 5 or 6 wins.
Well,
so you got the under.
Here's the thing, though, with that, guys, is if Cooper Kupp is healthy this year, if Matt Stafford is healthy, can they sneak 2 more wins from 5-12? And I'm also asking Brock Purdy. The 49ers last year went what?
Wait, the Niners?
The Niners record, because I mean, am I asking Brock Purdy to do it for a full season?
Oh, hang on, I could have look here on the sides.
10-7.
So they were 10-7.
10-7, fine. Seattle 9-8. I mean, I could see the Rams getting 2 more wins just because of a healthier staff. I mean,
but Stafford gets hurt a lot, and he can't stay healthy.
Yeah.
Who's the backup now?
Stetson Bennett.
Oh God, that's way worse. I'm just going to warn you now.
Well, Stetson Bennett by accident though is going to be better than John Wolford and
Baker Mayfield. John Wolford.
Baker Mayfield did put up 51 points against the Broncos last year.
Yeah, but guys, that's the Broncos.
Call me crazy because the Cardinals suck so bad. I think and I'm not really sure about the 49ers. They may sneak a win there. I'm going to give the Rams 2 more wins, so I'm going to take the over. It's 6.5. Right? Just give me 7. I mean, it's still not going to be good enough. They're still going to stink, but I'm going to
taking the under.
2 more wins this year.
Yeah, I'm picking the under. This team's going to struggle big time. I mean, Matthew Stafford is going to need his AARP card times 10 because that's how long he's been in the league.
Look, if those guys get hurt, then that pick is going to look really bad. But I'm basing on the fact that they're going to be healthier this year. They lost a lot of man games to key guys. I know teams go through that, but they lost a ton last year. So
by the way,
I will take the slight over on that.
By the way, Johnny,
going under.
I'm going to go under, but I do want to say I do think that is being very ballsy to take what I like to call the mystery box. But at the same time, though, like this is what happens when you get rid of pretty much all your draft picks and throw all your eggs in one basket for that Super Bowl. And what's his name? The general manager. I know it's Les something.
For what team? The
Rams. It's Les.
I'm looking it up.
At the same time,
Les Snead.
Les Snead. You know what Les Snead made, Nick?
What?
A deal with the devil.
I see what you did there.
So real quick, let's say I give the Rams 2 wins against the this might be a reach, but 2 wins against Arizona, right?
Right.
I can give them a win against Indy. Could I give them a win against Cleveland?
Possibly.
Could I give them a win against New Orleans and one other team?
People need to not sleep on New Orleans, though. That's what I'm going to say.
You know, it might be a reach, but I still think by accident. I think they'll get a couple more wins, so that's what we're going to go with. All right, let's go to the Seahawks here, who were probably the best. Not probably. I would say they were the best story in the league last year. When we were on this show, when we did our football preview last year, we all were laughing at the fact, and let's be fair, we all did, including yours truly, were laughing at the notion of Geno Smith starting for the Seattle Seahawks, and it ended up being the best story in the league. He got a huge extent. He got a 3-year extension. So, Pete Carroll and those guys, they knew what they were doing. Now can they run it back this season?
This number is huge, though, at 9.5.
It's 9.5, so you're going to ask them to get to 10 wins. And you look at what they did. They got Devin Witherspoon. And that was the thing, too. Remember, Seattle had the 5th overall pick despite the fact they won 9 games last year and were in playoff contention.
Thanks, Denver.
Right? They got Devin Witherspoon. They got Jackson Smith-Njigba, the wide receiver from Ohio State. You look at some of the other additions there on the left side of your screen, Bobby Wagner, Devin Bush, our former buddy Julian Love, the safety. This is now another year in the league. This is another year for Geno Smith. Can he do it now when there's actually expectations for Geno? That's what I would look at.
As much as I gave shit to Geno because he played horrible with the Jets, even though he got punched out by a teammate, which was kind of insane if people remember that story. I think that was all over a money dispute. But I think Geno actually earned his stripes a little bit last year in Seattle and actually played good football. Is he worth $50 million or how much is he making a year? 50, 55 million?
I think there's 1 year that he's making 52. I'll double check that as you go.
But Geno Smith, I think he's a serviceable quarterback, which is what you need in the NFL. So it's a 3-year contract worth $105 million. So I'm trying to do quick math.
35 million a year.
So he got paid way more than I thought. Now, part of that has to do with guys like Daniel Jones and all those quarterbacks who made 40, 45 million a year. But we'll get to those later.
He was getting that. He got that contract before Jones got his, I believe.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It was a 3-year, $75 million contract with Seattle in March, and that also included including an additional $30 million in incentives.
Oh my God. But Geno is a decent quarterback. He can throw the football. He can move his feet. He doesn't have cement feet like other quarterbacks in New York, but he can move the ball. He's got a decent wide receiver core. The running back situation is a little bit iffy, and I like Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll's like a sneaky good head coach.
Mm-hmm. No, Pete Carroll's a great head coach. When he's not refusing to give the ball to number 24 at the goal line during the Super Bowl, but I digress. But you know what? Yeah, Geno, earned his money for what he did during Seattle last season. I mean, in Seattle last season. I love how during the offseason they get Bobby Wagner back. They're trying to, I guess, make Legion of Boom 2.0 by adding the likes of Devin Bush and Jerron Reed, Draymond Jones, and Julian Love. I think the injury, because I think it was a broken bone in his wrist for Jackson Smith-Njigba, I think that's a bit of a blow. But you know what? You still have Lockett. You still have Metcalf. Hopefully Jackson can come back at some point during the season. Plus, you drafted Devin Witherspoon with the extra pick that you got. I know there's all this talk about Zach Charbonnet, who they got in the second round. How, is he going to take the lead from Kenneth Walker? Is Kenneth Walker, going to be healthy enough throughout this season? I think there's some questions that still have to be answered with Seattle, but they got a ton of good pieces around them.
By the way, can I just say one thing? That the best TV moment of the year was Geno Smith's interview after the game. I don't remember which game it was, but he basically said, "I'm hanging on to the receipts."
I think that was the Monday night win against the Broncos, the first one.
Because that was when the comments were kind of made from the Jets. And he's like, I'm going to hang on to those receipts. And he proved himself. What else can you say?
Yeah, no, I mean, I guys, I still say though that 9.5 is a little bit too high though for Seattle. I mean, I could see them getting back at 9 and 8. I can see them possibly sneaking in as a wild card again this year, but I mean, their offense though looks pretty good though. Geno, Kenneth Walker running the ball, Metcalf, hopefully Jackson Smith comes back, Tyler Lockett. Noah Fant, the tight end. I mean, they've got some guys there. So, but I still think it's going to be a little bit of an under, though, for them.
We'll see. I mean, so what do we have? It's 9.5. Where are we setting on the line?
Yeah,
I'm going to go just over at 10.
Okay, Johnny.
I'm going to say under, guys. I don't know if they're a 10-win team. I think they're going to be up there. I also don't know if Geno Smith can run that back again a second straight year. It would be awesome to see. But, I mean, his completion rate last year was so good. I just don't see if he can do that again for a second straight year. I think teams are going to figure that out a little bit more. But I'm going to say slightly under for Seattle.
Hank?
I'm going to have to agree with Johnny there. I don't know if I can trust Geno to have 2 consecutive good years. And I think really the question remains, was he a product of the system or was it just a one-year wonder? So, yeah, I think the Seahawks definitely, I can see them probably winning 7 or 8.
I mean, I think you're right, Hank, that he is a product of the system. Like Seattle really built around Geno Smith so that he had proper weapons to throw the ball.
And now that he got paid, I think the question is, did he earn that contract also?
Well, I think he definitely did earn the contract. He took the team on his back, essentially. Right. But when you get paid, and this is in any sport, once you make your contract, do you try as hard as you once did? No. That's just
ask Joe Flacco.
Joe Flacco. Don't even remind me. Joe Flacco destroyed my team even more. But yeah, 9.5 seems kind of big. And we know Geno Smith has a reputation of he'll have a good season and he'll have a bad season. So I'm going to go slightly under. I think 7 or 8 games is probably where I see it. All right.
Tom had the under 2? What did you have, Tom?
Yeah. No,
I had the over.
Okay, you did have him going at 10 wins. All right, let's get back. Let's go to the San Francisco 49ers here.
This is interesting.
This is going to be a very interesting team. Now, full year for Brock Purdy. It looks like he's healthy. He did play in the preseason. That was a big question mark coming into this year because he had the surgery so late in March. But I like some of the things they've done here. Bringing in Sam Darnold. I think Darnold can be. I think he can be a capable backup here. And one of my players of the year are actually on the 49ers, and that's a nice little teaser for later on in the show. But guys, I mean, now with Trey Lance being dealt to the Cowboys, Sam Darnold's going to be the backup, and we do know now that this is truly Trey Lance. I mean, this is going to be Brock Purdy's team. My question with the Niners here, it's the same thing I had with Geno Smith. Can Brock now do it for a full year, now that teams are going to start figuring him out more, I think you're going to see a lot of run plays on this team, even though they do have some weapons on the receiving side. I think you're going to see a lot of running plays. So I think Christian McCaffrey is going to be heavily involved this season. I think that was such a great pickup with how they did last year with him. And now I think he's really going to take off here for the 49ers. So that's what I'm looking at here. I think ultimately it starts with Brock Purdy and that offensive line.
I mean, you're not wrong. I mean, a lot of the controversy around the Niners is going to be the whole Trey Lance situation, how they let him go. And, I said it to you guys beforehand. I'm going to get on RG3 for the dumb comments he made about Trey Lance and how he gave up 3 first-round picks and blah, 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 blah. Okay, guys don't work out.
Yeah.
That's just what happens.
Yeah. Let me just
where RG3 should be criticizing the 49ers is for picking the wrong quarterback.
That's it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Where he should be wrong, he's wrong, is that they should have taken Justin Fields. I will die on that hill.
You're right. That's 100% right. They should have taken Justin Fields.
But yes, but also hindsight is 2020. I went into that draft with Fields as like my 4th or 5th in that class.
Right.
But guys, think about this for 1 second, though. Look at the 3 draft picks that they traded, what those 3 draft picks ended up becoming, right? That they traded to get Trey Lance. And think about how many organizations would have been set back 10, maybe 15 years with that kind of mistake that they made, and then only getting a 4th-round pick for him. And the 49ers haven't skipped a beat.
But that's the thing. It's like
Mr. Irrelevant turned relevant in Brock Purdy.
Right.
They've got now Sam Darnold, who I think who can work in that system, as crazy as that sounds. I mean, almost any other team in football, if they would have made that mistake with Trey Lance, would have been set back 10, 15 years.
Okay, but wait a minute. Oh, go ahead, Hank. Go ahead.
Well, I need to rebut that for a bit.
Yeah.
In fairness, not too many other teams have an offensive guru like Kyle Shanahan as their head coach.
Of course, that helps too. Yeah.
And make no mistake, I'm not saying that John Lynch is a bad GM. I mean, he certainly made his fair share of great draft picks. Fred Warner is an example of that. And I'll give you another one is getting Nick Bosa. That helps too. But
yes.
Having said that, have I not written in a previous blog that John Lynch has also made plenty of mistakes that have come back to haunt him?
Yes. And on top of that, and by the way, I would question whether Kyle Shanahan is an offensive genius, to be quite honest. But
he's done really well given whatever quarterback he's had. He's taken Jimmy G to Super Bowl, for crying out loud.
Okay, but you've said this before. I forgot which team you said it. We said it was Seattle. They could just be a product of the system. The team is so good with McCaffrey and Debo and having all those different pieces there that it doesn't really matter who you put as the quarterback there. Like you said, it could have been Jimmy G. It could have been Trey Lance. It could be Sam Darnold. It really doesn't matter. The team is greatly built. So it doesn't really matter who you put in the quarterback position. But you wasted a high-level pick to go get Trey Lance, and then you completely wasted it, and then you trade him to the Cowboys for nothing.
You mean a bag of Doritos.
Yeah.
And by the way, speaking of Bosa, you guys were just bringing it up. As we sit here right now, there's still discussion about him getting a record contract.
People need to stop with these. Like, I want record contracts in my position. How about you earn your money before asking for it?
But you know what? Let's be very real. The biggest thing that they have, in addition to an offensive line, is the weapons around whoever would be quarterback in the team, in this case, Brock Purdy. Because you know what? Christian McCaffrey is still one of the top 5, if not top 3, running backs in this league. Brandon Ayuk is a very decent wide receiver number 2. And then the wide receiver 1 on San Francisco has showcased, and his name is slipping my mind right now. I have no idea why.
Wait, who are you saying? Which position?
It's not Ayuk. It's the other San Fran receiver.
Oh, I know who you're talking about.
Debo. Debo has showcased the idea, like he is a dual threat. We saw him run and we saw him catch. He is unbelievable. He is an unbelievable talent that helps to elevate whoever is quarterback in the team. And then, of course, George Kittle, when he's not hurt, is a top five tight end who just has explosivity as a playmaker. So that's where your benefits are.
Well, and also the other thing you're forgetting is that Debo was used as a dual threat. Like
That's what I said.
Right. They were using him across the line a lot, which I didn't get at first when they were doing it, but now it works. And that's why he was pissed off when his contract came up, because he was used and had a lot more value to this team than people actually realized.
You know, they should have used him under center in that playoff game when they were so far behind.
What, 4 quarterbacks in?
Yeah, Josh Johnson, all that stuff. But look, I mean, I look at this team here, and I mean, the offensive line's a little bit of a concern because I think it might take a step back, but I still think talent-wise, this is still the best team in this division. So I will give them – I'm still going to say they're going to win this division. I will take the over.
It's 10.5.
It's 10.5. They could get another win. I think they can get to 11-6. I mean, you do have favorable teams in that division.
It's asking a lot.
Right?
But you know what, Nick? But they're also playing the NFC East, and I can see the 49ers beating the Commanders. I see the 49ers beating the Cowboys, maybe even the Giants.
They have Arizona twice.
And Arizona twice. So it's not improbable at that point.
And they have Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay also, which is...
Tampa Bay twice with LA. It's not improbable that they don't get 11.
Yeah, the problem with the Giants go out there this year, and I think that's on a very short week for the Giants.
I think that's a bad matchup for the Giants.
That's week 3, if I remember correctly. Yes. I was talking about this with
week 3 Thursday Night Football.
It's the Thursday night game in week 3. Now the Giants are playing in Arizona in week 2, so it's not like they have to go cross country, come back and go cross country again. They probably will stay out there, but that's not a favorable spot for the Giants early on in the season. But yeah, I'm gonna take the over. I think they get to 11-6, and I think Brock Purdy is going to help them lead the way. And if not, I still think they got a favorable enough system where even if he takes a step back or two, I think they'll still be all right.
Well, that would be a division winner if they went 11-6.
Yeah, no, they're going to win. In my opinion, they're going to. Hank, are you an over on that, or what are you?
Yeah, I'm an over.
I mean, I'm pretty much an over.
I'm an over by default, essentially, is what I am.
Yeah, that's what it feels like this year. As far as this division, guys, I don't think there's really much drama. I think the 49ers are going to win it by 2 games. I'm going to take them to win. I think Seattle will come in second, but I think Seattle is going to contend for a wild card spot, even at 9. And then I'll take the Rams third, and we'll take the Cardinals to get the number 1 overall pick in 2024.
I completely agree with Johnny's rankings, and actually how it is right here too. So I'm going to go San Fran with 1 as my division winner, Seattle at 2, and Seattle is going to be one of my 3 NFC wildcard teams. And then the Rams to finish 3rd, the Cardinals to finish 2-15, and be the number 1 overall pick in the 2024 NFL draft.
Yeah, I mean, we're pretty much all echoing the same thing. San Francisco will win the division. Seattle will finish 2nd. I think that could be competitive depending on the way the matchups go between those two. If they flip-flop or if they split games, that maybe Seattle wins the division. It's possible, but I think San Francisco will win the division. Seattle 2, the Rams 3, and the Cardinals will be the first overall pick in 2024.
And Nick, and you have the Seahawks as a wild card as well, right?
Yes. Yeah. Hank?
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Niners at number 1. Again, I feel like I'm picking them by default, but such is the case with there are the 49ers. Then there's the Seahawks could be right over here. They're 2nd. Yeah. Then there's 50 feet of crap. And then there's the Rams. Moneyball reference right there.
Yeah.
Well, do you have the Cardinals as the first overall pick also or no?
Again, I would say 0.0, but I don't think they're that bad.
Yeah, okay.
I have a little bit of a bold prediction. I'm going to say they split against the Cardinals and the Rams split each other. That's what I'm going to say.
Wow.
That
would definitely twist things up if that happened.
But nonetheless, the Cardinals are just...
Yeah.
And the reason I say that they're going to split is because you know how that happens with division play.
It's just like Will Levis and that Mayo.
But worse.
Oh.
Well, you know what?
God damn it.
You know what? I think Will Levis and his Mayo coffee, that Mayo coffee perfectly describes this next division.
I think it's a little different this year, guys. I will say that. I'm gonna start this division preview off right now with one of my takes. Go
I
for
think just like last year, the NFC South champion will be a sub 500 team.
I see that.
it. Perhaps that could be possible. But let's see. Let's start with the
Atlanta.
Let's go with the Atlanta Falcons. Well, this was another great story last year. Nobody gave him a chance to do anything special. What Arthur Smith did there last year with Marcus Mariota turning over to Desmond Ridder to win 7 games last year. Now, their first draft choice, drafting Bijan Robinson 8th overall. I think at the time we thought it might have been a little bit of a reach, but given their system and stuff, I mean, it might turn out not to be. Now you look at all the other.
The concern, Johnny, at least on my end, was that they had Tyler Allegier, who had 1,000+ rushing yards, and then they were drafting Bijan, who was a hell of a talent. But when you already have Allegier, plus they still have, if I'm not mistaken, Cordarrelle Patterson, who is a true threat running back, wide receiver. So I think that's actually, it's kind of limiting both guys and all 3 guys, but. You know what? I think that actually is an advantage to them, is that they have a hell of a running back unit. Plus, you look at those key additions. I love the addition of Onimeta. I love the addition of Campbell and Jesse Bates and Caden Ellis and Jeff Okudah, Trey Flowers. They beefed up their defense.
Yeah, they're going to be a much better team this year than they were last year. I mean, I'm curious to see what Ritter is going to do with quarterback position, being a young quarterback, obviously. Hopefully, like a guy like Cordell Patterson actually puts them over the top. We saw a lot of trick plays with Cordell Patterson too, which was kind of fun until everything just kind of fell apart in Atlanta. The number for Atlanta, and I think again might be a little high, is 8.5.
I am going to take a slight under because I think the NFC South, if I'm not mistaken. Actually, I'm going to double check the division, but I could have sworn the NFC South has a couple of tough division oppositions this season.
Well, I'm going to take a look at Atlanta's schedule just because I'm curious of what we have. So they have Jacksonville, Minnesota.
So the NFC South. Sorry, Nick, to interrupt, but the NFC South has the NFC North, which means they're going to play the Packers, the Bears, the Vikings, and Lions. And they have the AFC South, which is the Jaguars, Titans, Colts, and Texans.
Their schedule is not difficult. I'm looking at it now.
Okay, yeah, it's not too difficult. I just think it's very mixed, and I think the problem is going to be that NFC North. So when these teams play the Vikings and they play the Bears and the Lions, that's where the trouble can come in.
They also have the London game with no bye also.
Yeah, and actually the 17th game for the NFC South teams is against AFC East opponents, and we know how big the AFC East is going to be this year. So that's why I say 500. That's why I say I think whoever wins this division, it's going to be like the Bucs last year, where they're an 8-9.
By the way, can we throw a rock at the NFL scheduler who chose the games for Christmas? Really? You chose Falcons Colts on Christmas Eve?
Hey, the Giants have to play the Eagles on Christmas Day. My Christmas is going to be spoiled that day.
But that's a good game at least.
Christmas Day is going to be full of sports for me this year.
Who wants to see Indianapolis and Atlanta on Christmas Eve?
Nick, Christmas Eve's on a Sunday this year.
Who cares?
No. In other words, all the Sunday slate of games are.
Oh, really?
Yes.
I didn't realize that. Okay. Whatever.
It's not like last year where it moves.
Oh, that's no fun.
It's not.
Ugh. It's not like Black Friday.
So let's take a look here. Over under, you said on the Falcons is
8.5.
8.5.
I'm going to go slight under. I think they finished 8-9.
Well, so my rookie of the year is on the Falcons. I think they're gonna run for more than they pass this year, so I think that's going to put less pressure on Desmond Ridder. But the NFC South is more competitive in spots. Their other matchups are tougher. I think they are an under on the 8.5.
Yeah, I have them as an under too because I don't think they're 100% ready to compete yet. I think that Ritter still has time to figure it out. They're going to give him time. It's kind of like what's going on with another team, where's the cheesehead with Jordan Love, where they're trying to kind of work him in as well. Like
I will say though, if Desmond Ritter does get hurt though, they brought in Taylor Heineke to be backup. I think that's a very solid option though. So your backup though is just as important as your starter. We saw that last year. Look how many quarterbacks got hurt or got benched in some way, shape, or form. I mean, some of those names I was reading on Football Friday last year were making you guys cringe. So,
but yeah, I would take the under for sure.
And I'm going to take the slight under. Yeah.
What do you got, Hank?
Better team, but I don't know that I can really be sold on the Falcons. And to be honest, I'm still kind of baffled by the selection of Honey Bijan Mustard Robinson.
So you take the under?
Yes.
All right, next team.
Here's an interesting choice. The New Orleans Saints, and the big thing with them was bringing in Derek Carr this offseason. To go, and also the big news is that Alvin Kamara is going to be suspended the first 3 games of the year. Guys, every year when it comes to the NFL, there is one team that I struggle to figure out. I think this year it's going to be the New Orleans Saints because on paper it seems like Derek Carr was one of the better additions, but I don't know if he's going to take the Saints over the top this year. That's where
they just traded their kicker.
Well,
they're really good kicker too.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? Broncos country, let's ride.
Yeah, really. I mean, but let's look at the first 3 games because he'd be suspended for the first 3 games. Home for Tennessee, at Carolina, at Green Bay. Would they have won those games regardless?
I see 1 and 2 or 2 and 1.
Nick, read those 3 teams one more time.
Home for Tennessee, on the road for Carolina, on the road for Green Bay.
1 and 2, 2 and 1.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they beat Carolina. That's division though. I don't know. Tennessee's kind of a toss-up.
I think they can beat Tennessee.
I don't know. I could see them go 1 and 2.
I don't like the Saints defense. That's one of the reasons why I am very hesitant on them this year. I also don't know if Derek Carr really takes this team over the top.
No, he does. I mean, listen, I like Shepard and Saunders, but the defense is still a concern, especially when they lost pieces like Onimata, Davenport, and Ellis, and Shai Tuttle. The Jamal Williams, I love. I think that was an excellent signing, especially because Kamara had a really awful season last season, and now he's suspended for the first 3 games. You could see a scenario where if Kamara doesn't step his game up, it could be Jamal Williams supplanting him as the RB1 in New Orleans. But Derek Carr, yeah. But actually, Johnny, listen, it's not so much about Derek Carr. Who is he passing to? Because it feels like the Saints are again banking on a Michael Thomas comeback. And he is just not the same wide receiver that he was in 2018, 2019. And it's just, he has no weapons. There's just nothing I trust in the pass catching core in this team.
Yeah, I mean, Chris Olave is all right, but
he's developing. I shouldn't discount Olave, but I still think he's developing.
I mean, if you look at his numbers, I mean, last year, right? He played 15 games. He 72 catches for just over 1,000 yards. He had 4 touchdowns. So 4 touchdowns in 15 games. And he might be like your number 1 guy because I don't know if you can really bank on Michael Thomas being the guy. That's why I'm not sold on the Saints this year. I'm not.
No.
And
I have them here. Yeah, what's their over-under?
9.5.
9.5. 9.5?
Yeah, I almost laughed at that. 9.5.
I am.
And Dennis Allen.
There's no way they're winning 10 games.
Question marks about Dennis Allen as coach too.
Yeah, they're not winning 10 games. This is an easy under.
Under. I think they only win like 6 or 7.
Hank?
9.5 over under. Get out of here. No chance. Like Derek Carr, yes, I'll give you that he's an upgrade, but with the team around him, was this really the right place for him to sign as a free agent?
No.
Yeah, he could have gone anywhere else to have a Super Bowl possibility, but instead he chose a team that is going to be in the red at some point in terms of salary cap.
So basically, he chose the crappy comedy tickets instead of the boat from the mystery box.
Yes,
Precisely.
Johnny, are you under?
I am going to take the under here. Yeah, there's just too many question marks with me for the Saints to think that they're going to be a double-digit winning team this year. I mean, Tom made a great point about the receiving side. I mean, Jamal Williams, I'll tell you right now, I mean, that's a big loss for the Lions. I mean, because he had a great year there for Detroit. It was a big reason why they were able to bounce back and play relevant football till the last week of the season. But it's not enough, and I'm not in love with their defense, and it's just there's not enough depth on the receiving side for Derek Carr this year. So I will take the under on the Saints.
I think Derek Carr is given far too much credit, by the way, to be honest. Like, everyone thinks, like, oh, he just needed the perfect system. But Derek Carr's not a top 10 quarterback.
No, I would not put him in the top 10. I think he's more of in the middle tier.
He's a second-tier guy, in my opinion. Like, he can throw the football. I don't think he can lead a system. Like, he's a run-it-and-gun-it guy.
Well, here's a test for him this year down there in New Orleans. All right, let's go to the Carolina Panthers. A lot of talk about them, especially here locally here in South Carolina, North Carolina area. Boy, were they very active this offseason. I mean, really came out of nowhere, bringing in Miles Sanders from Philly, bringing in Adam Thielen from Minnesota, Hayden Hurst, the tight end from Cincinnati, DJ Chark, who I desperately wanted the Giants. Now, he's dealing with some injury, but you got him. You got Andy Dalton, who they brought in as a veteran backup, which I like. I think every team needs a veteran backup, especially with a young rookie quarterback. Obviously, Shy Little.
They got Thielen.
Yeah, Adam Thielen. I mean, I like what they've done. Bryce Young, obviously the first overall pick in that
trading for the first overall pick. Remember, they had to give up a few pieces, including DJ Moore, plus a couple of other first round picks in order to get Bryce Young.
I think it was worth it. I think it was worth it for them, though.
Well, you know what? I agree. I'm going to sort of agree on that, Nick, only because the Panthers general manager, his job was on the line. He needed to do something. He needed to make some sort of splash, and wow, he delivered on that splash.
All the jokes they've been putting at quarterback the past couple of years. I mean, like it was time. They needed to invest in a quarterback.
But let's also, I mean, this team last year was almost at the midway point of the season, arguably the worst team in the NFL. And then as soon as Mr. Severance gets fired, that was for you.
Severance!
Yes, that was for you. And they bring in, and they make a change at coach. I mean, they took off. I mean, one of the reasons why the Panthers were able to play relevant football into week 17 last year was because they won their games in division, made some upsets. You know, Sam Darnold and PJ Walker stepped in and did enough. Their running back situation, it was funny. Ever since they traded Christian McCaffrey, they were getting Chuba Hubbard and Deontay Foreman, who was not there this year. But they stepped up and ran the ball like crazy. I tell you what, if the big question mark to me is if Bryce Young is the answer, then this team is going to win the division because the pieces are there. I love Miles Sanders. I love Thielen. I love Chark. I love Hurst at the tight end spot. I mean, the ceiling for me for the Panthers is a division winner this year. As long as Young can do it now. He started off a little rusty in preseason. He played better towards the end. I think the signs are there, but I have been bullish on the Panthers. I kind of was last year, but this year it looks a lot more favorable. So yeah, that's what I think I'm gonna go with here. Over under on the Panthers is
I think it's 7.5.
Yeah, I'm going north. I mean, if they could win 7 games with the players they had last year, and you see all these additions this year, they to me are absolutely an over.
I think 7.5 honestly is like the perfect line because I could see 7 or 8 wins each from this team. I could honestly see, guys, a scenario where the Panthers and Falcons tie at the top of like an 8-9 record.
Well, didn't that happen? Didn't they have a tiebreaker situation? Was that last year? The NFC South?
They were going to, but then the Bucks won a game, so they was 8-9, and everybody else was 7-10.
Yeah, Bucks. Yeah, there was the Week 17 matchup with Carolina that ultimately determined that division.
All right. So what do you have, Tom? Over or under?
I'm going to go over. I think they're an 8-win team.
Yeah, I think I'm on the same kind of road as that. Like, it's not 8 games is not going to really get them in, but it's. I think they win.
I could see, and I think on my predictions, I don't see this team making the playoffs yet. Only on like losing a tiebreaker to the Falcons, but
yeah.
But I think if they have another good, off season next season, another good drafting, another good signing period, I could see Carolina slowly start to take this division back.
I would also go on record and say that I think the Panthers are the most underrated team in the NFL this coming season. Like, because I think Bryce Young is going to be a good quarterback. I think that's going to be a franchise quarterback, I think, for the Panthers going forward. And eventually you will see the Panthers climb up with Bryce Young. Like, I'm not going to say it's like Mahomes in that regard, but I could see it heading that trajectory where he will be with the Panthers for a long period of time. So
Nick, I actually have the Panthers going to the playoffs.
Do you?
Yes, I do. And do you want to know why?
Why?
I don't really. First of all, as I said, I'm very skeptical on the Falcons.
Wait a minute. You have them as the division winner?
Yep.
Wow.
Again, I told you were going to see some bold picks from me. Did I not?
No, you're right. But that was a little shocking to me. But
Hold on. I have Nick's reaction right here.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, Owen Wilson. But
yes.
No, I honestly, I think they really did a good job this offseason, and I think Bryce Young is going to be their quarterback for the future. And I'm sorry, it doesn't get talked enough, but they fleeced the Bears in that trade. Absolutely fleeced them.
That's not a question. Totally. You're right.
Why would you? I mean, you're telling me that getting excited over DJ Moore is going to help you in your receiving core? No.
I mean, I get it, but I don't know. We'll see. That's a bold pick. I mean, if the Panthers win with Bryce Young in the first season as a division winner, that would be incredible.
Yeah.
Don't be surprised if it happens. And Frank Young's... thank you, Johnny. Frank Young is a really good offensive mind.
Yeah, I think Frank Reich was a good pickup for them there, too. Oh, all right, let's get to the Bucks, boy. This team's done a 180. Obviously, just starting. I mean, look, they made the playoffs last year. Tom Brady was trying to make history in his final year, being the only under 500 team to make it and win a Super Bowl, but was not to be. This was a team that was banged up by injuries big time last season, both on the offensive line and on the receiving side. So Brady, obviously, we know that he did retire, and this time for good. They brought in Baker Mayfield, John Wolford as the quarterback options. Now it's not going to be pretty. Actually, one of my bold takes is with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers here. I almost can make two bold takes on the Bucs guys, but this is not going to be for the faint of heart here in Tampa. It is going to be a long season. I mean, you guys don't even need to give me the over under. I don't even need to look at it. Could just guess it and take the under. Because I think the Bucs are going to be one of the worst teams in the league this year. I think it's going to
give your actual take though, because I'm looking at it on here.
Well, one of my bold takes this season, and I think it was my coldest take. One. I mean, it's maybe not saying much, but I think when we go through our Football Friday picks this year, and you hear me announce the quarterback names, I think you're going to hear a ton for the Bucs. In fact, I think they're going to go through the most starting quarterbacks of any team in the NFL this year.
Oh, you mean Baker Mayfield's not going to last all season and win an MVP?
I don't trust Baker Mayfield, whether it's going to be his attitude, whether it's going to be his health, whether it's going to be his production. And I mean, look at the options they have. John Wolford, who actually might be worse than Baker Mayfield, is there. I actually have to look at their depth chart and see how bad it actually is. I know Kyle Trask is there. Kyle Trask has barely taken a snap. I don't think he's even taken a snap in the NFL.
Johnny, there's really not much to say about this. Just say under and move on.
Right. Don't even give me the over under, but I'm taking under. I think they're maybe at max a 4-win team.
Would you like to know the under?
Johnny.
Sure.
It's 6.5.
Oh, see, that's crazy. I don't see it. Look at all the people they lost too. I mean, there's nothing on this team. I want to look at their depth chart, but I'm taking the under, guys.
Let's look at
Johnny.
the Bucks schedule. Go ahead, Tom.
Okay, no. So in other words, you're saying that the Bucks are going to empty the bench.
Oh! Oh, where's the sound effect when I need it and I'm not ready for it? That one.
I'm looking at their team here. I mean, I know they got Mike Evans, but he's always banged up. Chris Godwin, another guy who's always banged up. There's not much. I got to be honest with you guys. There's not much to this team. There really isn't. I mean, the guy that I actually know that I think is actually not bad is Chase McLaughlin, but that's a kicker.
I mean, let's look at
Tampa's schedule. This team has nothing to it.
Well, let's look at the Tampa schedule. Okay,
Yeah.
They play Minnesota. Okay, that's
Not good.
Philly, Detroit, Buffalo, San Francisco, Atlanta, Jacksonville. Yeah, it's going to be a tough season.
I mean, I could give them a split against Atlanta, and I hate to say it, I almost could give them a split against Tampa. I mean, against Carolina and maybe New Orleans. Maybe give them 3 divisional games, but everybody else you just listed off there, not great.
God. Wow, they're putting Tampa versus Philadelphia on ABC. Oof.
That is what, week
3?
3. Oh, 3, and that's
going to be a blowout.
They're going to have a blowout on ABC.
I would assume that would be Fowler's crew that would get that one.
It's a 7:15 game, so it's a doubleheader.
All right, I will look that up while you guys go. I mean, there's not much else to really say, but
God,
I mean, look at all the pieces that are gone. Raheem Nunez-Roche is gone. Leonard Fournette is gone, and I think he's still a free agent.
he is.
Shaq Mason's gone. Sean Murphy-Bunting's gone. And Julio Jones is a shell of his former self, but still gone. Carl Nassib is gone. Akeem Hicks is gone. Ryan Succop's gone. The thing, I know they still have Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, but the problem you're going to have with those two is, number one, I mean, I know those two can be 1,000-yard guys. I know those two can be 1,000-yard guys. I think, is it Godwin who has had was Godwin or Evans the one with 9 straight 1,000 yards?
I think it was Evans.
Evans. So here's the thing. I mean, Evans could still get that, but I think that's a bit in question. And I think both of them probably get hurt, quite a bit. And I just don't know if those two are going to have the same level of success with Baker Mayfield at the helm, let alone Baker Mayfield and a potential rotating, quarterback position like Johnny thinks that there could be, compared to somebody like a Tom Brady or Jameis Winston that they've had in the past 5 years.
I was going to say, wait a minute, they don't have a Jameson Shellfish Winston.
I think he's still in New Orleans.
Hey, hold up.
What? That's why I made the joke.
Eating the W's.
Yes. But yeah, I mean,
I have them as a 5 or 6 win team. I have an under.
I think you're being generous. I think they're going to be lower.
Bucks are going to be a top 5 pick this year. Next year,
up there with the Broncos.
They're going to be the Tampa Bay Yucks this year.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean they're not the Tampa Bay Toms anymore?
Well,
no, they're what fans used to call them in the 70s. Or actually, I shouldn't say the 70s. Really, during the entire era in which, actually, let me rephrase that. They're going to be the Tampa Bay Yucks are pretty much what they were during the entire Hugh Culverhouse reign of error.
You know what phrase we're going to hear a ton of, right?
What?
We're going to hear, "What the buck?" We're just going to hear that all season long. What the buck is going on in Tampa Bay?
You know what's funny? Years ago, I went to a Giants-Buccaneers game, and this was obviously before Brady. The Giants ended up winning this game, but then it was one of the few times I was in a suite at MetLife Stadium, and the guy next to me goes, "Oh, I've been a Bucs fan my whole life," and he's like, "I've been a fan since they were the Yucks," and then he's like, "Don't worry, we've been called much worse since then." I think.
Ouch.
Yeah, I mean, Tampa might be one of those teams that are going for one of those big quarterbacks in the 2024 draft.
I think it was 2018 when Fitzception started that game against us.
Yes, I think you're right.
Oh, yeah.
All right, what's next?
So just as a well, I'm curious now. So who do we have winning this division? Because I think we're all differing on this. Hank, you said you're taking the Panthers, right?
Correct.
I trust Carolina more than I trust the other teams right now. I mean, I think they had arguably the best offseason of any team in the league. It was that good. You've got one of the worst teams there in Tampa. I know this is going to sound bold here, but here's what we're going to go with. We're going to go with the Panthers winning the NFC South. I'm going to take the Falcons second. I'm going to take the Saints third, and I'm going to take the Bucks dead last.
I am going to swap the two. I think the Falcons and Panthers both finish 8-9, but I think the Falcons get the tiebreaker to get the division and playoff spot. Falcons 1, Panthers 2, Saints 3, Bucks 4.
Yeah, that's pretty much how I have the Falcons are winning the NFC South. The Panthers are going to make it close because I think Bryce Young is going to be up there. Spoiler for one of my awards. But the Bucks are going to be a shit show. So I put the Saints third. So I'd have Falcons, Panthers, Saints, Bucks.
I'm going to go with Carolina, the Saints, the Falcons, and the Yucks.
And this is also part, and that division and this division are part of my fiery hot take that I will mention at the end of this one because it won't apply to the NFC East.
Okay.
So let's go to the North here, and let's start with the Chicago Bears. Now the Bears come up.
Bears.
The Bears.
Da Bears.
The Bears.
So the Bears originally did end up with the first overall pick after their Week 18 loss and the Week 18 win of the Texans over the Colts, which just ended up, completely shaking everything in the NFL draft. And then we find out, of course, the trade with Carolina. So the Bears had the first pick, then got traded down to 9, then traded down to 10 after the Eagles went up to 9 and got Jalen Carter. So they got Darnell Wright first overall. But you look at this team and obviously another year for Justin Fields. He now has DJ Moore to go along with Chase Claypool on the receiving side. And also what he's got is he doesn't have Aaron. And you could also say maybe a key addition too, or maybe a key departure. And you can say this for the other three for two of the other three teams in this division. No Aaron Rodgers with the Packers.
I think that's going to be to the benefit of.
Wait a minute. Did someone say Aaron Rodgers?
L-A-X.
Don't do it.
Yes. But I think the loss of Rodgers is going to be a complete benefit to the other three teams of that division and a big detriment to the Green Bay Packers. Now, obviously, they lost David Montgomery to Detroit, who we'll talk about in just a little bit. But you know what? I love the additions that they made to their defense with the linebackers and Tremaine Edmonds and TJ Edwards. DJ Moore, I think, is a very solid wide receiver. And you know what? They needed a true wide receiver one over there, and I think DJ Moore can be that. Robert Tonyan's an excellent tight end. Travis Homer, when he's healthy, can be a decent running back. Obviously not to the level of what Montgomery could do. I think Justin Fields, I'm not on his hype train, but the reason I put the Bears, because you guys can see my sheet, as a wild card is just because, one, the Giants' schedule is going to be tough, and we'll talk about that when we get to the Giants. And two, again, I think this division is completely shaken up by the fact that there's no Aaron Rodgers. And with the NFC in my eyes being the much weaker conference, I think you can have a team like the Bears win, and especially when they play, I think they play like the NFC South. So like we just said, so I could see a situation where Chicago gets 9 or 10 wins and they manage to get one of those wildcard spots.
I don't know. I don't know how to feel about this team. Obviously, their quarterback, obviously great. I mean, and obviously improving. I don't know. It's getting their team to play together. Justin Fields is a good quarterback. We had the incident, I think, in the locker room last year with him, the media getting involved and all that stuff because of certain things that were said. But I don't know. They were good. They're a young team. They got a lot of assets between those two trades. They just got to go out and play. DJ Moore, I think, will be a big asset for Justin Fields, who I think will really help. I mean, I'm looking at the over-under number. It's 7.5. What do we think about 7.5?
Over. I'm going over.
Okay. Everybody else?
I can see them going slightly over. Again, do I like the trade of DJ Moore? Absolutely not. I think they really sold themselves short with that trade. Having said that, though, I think this is probably going to be the year that we start to see some progress from Justin Fields. Because trust me, I really do believe he's talented. So I'll take the over.
Bears improve off their 3-14 record. They do not get to 8 wins though this year. Not yet. They're not there yet. I'm also not sold on their defense. I think their defensive line still has question marks, guys. So I actually think their ceiling is 6, and some of that will be because this division is not great. I mean, it's definitely gotten worse because Aaron Rodgers is not there. Minnesota, I think, also is not as good as they were last year. I think the Lions will be a little bit better, but they'll probably sneak one there. So I think they can get to 6. So I'm going to take the under.
Yeah, I think I'm going to lean on the under just because even though I like Justin Fields, contrary to what Hank said, I think DJ Moore would actually be a good pickup, because it gives him a veteran presence, at least at the wide receiver position to throw to. Is he a number 1? That's a question. But I don't know.
Yeah, they got 3 options on the receiving side now. I mean, they've got Moore, Darnell Mooney, and Chase Claypool. I know Claypool's a little bit banged up right now, but
I don't know why they made that move. That was kind of an interesting one to me.
We still can't. Almost 2 years later, we still can't figure that one out.
Yeah.
But their running back situation is kind of questionable at best. But I'm going to go under because I don't. It's not their time. Give it another year or 2. I could see them really improving and moving up.
Well, yeah, and we're going to talk about this team, but I think we talked about the Packers rebuilding. You can move on to the next slide as I say this. The Packers.
Yeah, actually, yeah.
I also think. Oh, speaking of which, I think the Packers are rebuilding, and I also think that the Minnesota Vikings have one more year to do this because Kirk Cousins is going to be a free agent after next season. So their window might be closing, even with all the great receivers and stuff they have. All right, as far as the Packers go here, guys, coming off an 8-9 record where they were still relevant into Week 18 last year, game number 271 when they lost to the Lions. Not much to add to the additions list. Obviously, all the talk is about Aaron Rodgers getting traded to Knicks, Jets. Of course, Randall Cobb, Alan Lazard, all out. Mason Crosby still not signed anywhere yet, which is crazy. I mean, I know a Packers fan that I see at the bar every weekend that we talk about this. How he hasn't signed yet is crazy. Lucas Van Ness, they got in the first round with their first round pick, the one with the trade they traded with the Jets. Guys, I just don't know how good Jordan Love is. I mean, this is going to be his time to shine this year, but I mean, they won 8 games last year. I think they're going to take a slight drop off this year. It's just hard to say because they lost a lot of pieces this off season.
Also,
and they didn't really add anybody with free agency. It was a lot of drafting moves.
Well, that would kind of make sense though if you're going in this kind of direction. I mean, why would you be adding pieces if you don't think you're going to be if you're making all these just trying to get rid of these guys?
Let me steal a Hank line here. Aaron Rodgers, Jordan Love. Aaron Rodgers, Jordan Love.
Oh my God, that seesaw is.
Like
let me add my own liner in here.
I mean,
Packers.
Yeah.
By the way, the Packers aren't really that much worth talking about. I think you know how I feel about them.
I mean, 7.5 number. I think they're going to do a massive drop off from last year.
No, I don't know if they're getting that close to 7. No chance.
I think it's going to be a massive drop off. Jordan Love has no experience behind at the quarterback position. There's going to be growing pains up the wazoo this whole season. I'm going to say they maybe win 4 to 5 games.
They're going to.
I'll tell you what's going to happen. I can see Wisconsinians getting crying in their beer and cheese heads.
I'll tell you what's going to happen, guys. Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon are going to get run into the bleeping grounds. That's what's going to happen.
Agreed, 100%.
By the way, can I make a hot take?
Yes.
Sure.
Everyone likes to compare the Cowboys to the Yankees. I actually think the Packers are more comparable to the Yankees.
Well, this
at least right now, this year, yeah.
Well, yeah, because think about it. Both of them haven't won since, both of them have won the most championships in their respective sports, because remember, I'm counting pre-Super Bowl. So, both of them have a long title drought. and they've won in our lifetime. At least the Packers have won in my lifetime, unlike the Cowboys. Fun fact: the last Cowboys Super Bowl win was the last football game ever played before I was born.
One excellent.
2010 for the Packers, 2009 for the Yankees. Similar drought, right?
Yeah.
And also, both the Packers and the Yankees have had a plethora of chokes since then. Have they not?
Yes.
I mean, hey, I'll smiles in 15-1.
Okay. All right, Johnny and Tom, where do you have the Packers? We both have them as unders.
Their ceiling to me is 6 wins, but that's not going to be an over, so I'm going to take the under on it.
I'm going under. This team is developing right now. It has very little talent to it.
All right, on to the next team, which I think is going to be a great team to watch. The Lions.
This is going to be a team to definitely watch out for. There's so much that I like about this team.
Well, I tell you,
oh yes, I forgot Hank.
Is there though?
I let you know what, Hank. Since the floor is yours.
I'm sorry, but if you look at the roster that they had, it's solid, but it's not like earth-shattering in my opinion. And I can't overlook the fact that they screwed up the draft. Like, why would you take Jahmyr Gibbs when you had DeAndre Swift and you gave him to the Eagles for a bag of Doritos? Like, come on. I'm supposed to take this team seriously? I'm supposed to take a team that has Jared Goff as their quarterback seriously?
Hold on.
He played fantastic last year.
He did play fantastic. I'll give you that, but
no, Hank.
They also started 1-7, and they didn't start going on that win streak until it was too late.
1 second.
I think before Hank gets it even more, I think I need to play a little certain sound effect here.
I'm sorry. I'm not drinking. I fell for it last year. I'm not drinking the Campbell Kool-Aid again. In fact, if you look at some of the games they had last year, you could even argue that Dan Campbell low-key cost them a playoff spot.
Actually, that was your fiery hot take.
Yes, it is my fiery hot take.
You're saying the Lions will crash and burn and fire Dan Campbell.
Yes, and I stand by that.
Wow. I think you're the only one.
That is what? Is that a fiery hot take?
It is, yes.
I was going to say.
Yes, it is. I love Dan Campbell. I love his energy, but when you look past his energy, you can't tell me that he hasn't made questionable decisions.
I'm surprised you're going against a giant.
Again, I love Dan Campbell. He is a Giants legend, but I'm calling it how I see it. How many times have I picked against the Giants during these pick'em weeks?
That's a good point. I'll give him that. But I'm not
the type of guy that plays favorites, even though you may be a little surprised with, even though that may sound contradictory given what I'm about to say about the Giants. But still, I'm not drinking the Lions Kool-Aid. I'm sorry. History has told me otherwise, so I'm not falling for it.
So I'm assuming,
in the words of the Who, I won't get fooled again.
But so is it a little different though when you don't have Green Bay being a top team in the division though? Does that matter?
I was going to say, yeah.
I mean,
no,
it feels different though this time.
And it feels different. But remember, this is a franchise that's only won one playoff game since either Eisenhower left office or since Kennedy was assassinated.
They've been the rebuilding since 1957. No, listen, they've been the rebuilding since 1957 Detroit Lions. We get that, but I think it's different this go around. Now, honestly, the two running backs they lost, I think, are a big deal. Losing Swift and losing Williams, who was probably the best running back in the league last year.
But you know what? I think that they made up for it a little bit. I do like Gibbs, and David Montgomery's a solid RB1.
I think they're capable of filling in. And remember, they still had one of the best, speaking of best connections, we were talking about it in the AFC, one of the best connections in football was last year Jared Goff to Amon-Ra St. Brown. And so he's there. I know there's no DJ Chark, but to me, I think this offensive line has the chance to be one of the best in the league. And they were showing that at times last year. Their defense got better as the year went along last year. I think they were still in growing pains. Remember, Aiden Hutchinson was stellar last year. I think that only continues. Now, my only question mark with them is what do they have them projected at? Let's see.
9.5. It's a big number.
10-win team. See,
I think they're 9-8 again, but I think this time 9-8 can get them.
I don't think Minnesota is 13-4 like they were last year. So
I think they got lucky.
I give them 2 less wins, and can I find an extra win for Detroit? I'm going to do it. I am going to give the Lions, and especially because I have them as one of my wild card teams this year. That means they have to get to 10 wins. So I'm going to give them a 10th win this year, especially for my guy, my coach of the year, Dan Campbell.
I mean, the one thing I will say, Hank, is like I know what he's referring to with all the rebuilds. I guess you could say that the Lions have rebuilt more than the Ford Motor Factory has over the years. But basically,
not only have they rebuilt more than the Ford Motor Factory, the cars that they produce have been as successful as the Edsel.
Right, but I'm saying the Ford Motor Factory might have been more successful rebuilding something than the Lions have over the years. Yeah. Go ahead, Johnny.
It is now or never for the Lions. When you've got a rebuilding Packers team, when you've got a Bears team that's not there yet, and when you've got a Vikings team that might have been an overrated third. And I don't want to take anything away from the 13 wins that they had last year, but you saw at times that they will even look flawed. That it's got to be now for the Viking for the Lions.
We got a little update on Jonathan Taylor, by the way.
I'm watching it right now, and we'll get to that in just a moment. But as far as the Lions go, I'm giving them 10 wins because that division, to me, just screams the fact that they're going to get to a 10th win this year. I'm not going to say they're going to win the division, but I think they get to a 10th win.
Am I crazy, guys, for thinking that 9-8 could win 1 or 2 of these wild cards for an NFC team?
No, I don't think you're crazy at all.
Because I want to say that they stay 9-8, but I still think they get one of the wild cards. I honestly think 9-8 could get a wild card spot in this conference.
So are you going under?
I'm going to take the under, just under.
See, I think to be safe on the wild card, I think you got to get to 10, though.
I think to be safe, but I think the NFC is so weak this year that 9 can do it.
I think the Vikings are going to come back to earth a little bit. That's just what I see. I think 13-4 was kind of a fluke last year.
We'll talk about the Vikings. Actually, we'll talk about it next. So I'll just go to their slide. I don't think they'll get 13, but I think 11 or 12 is still possible. But you know what? I'm going to break the fourth wall here.
Well, wait. One second. Let me just give I'm going to say the Lions are over. Okay, now go ahead.
Lions, okay. I'm going to break the fourth wall here. We're recording this on Tuesday the 29th, and 4 p.m. Eastern just flipped. So the 4 of us have been sitting here waiting for a JT update. So, Johnny, can you give us the Jonathan Taylor update?
Yeah, so according to Adam Schefter of ESPN, he has reported that the Colts have not received a fair value trade offer for Jonathan Taylor, and there are 2 teams that include the Dolphins that did make a trade offer for him.
But all right, so I'm just going to take a side here.
Wait a minute, you're leaving out one more part of it, that he's going to be on the physically unable to perform list, and he can't play for 4 games.
Yeah, as a result,
so Jonathan Taylor out So Taylor's out the first 4 weeks, and here's just my quick 2 cents. And I think I mentioned it last episode of ETB Sports, Nick, that, I understand we talk about, the value of the running back and such, but I think it's a little ridiculous on Jim Irsay and the Colts ownership part to go, that if I or Jonathan Taylor, we won't be remembered tomorrow if we were out of the league, and yet ask for a first-round pick in return. I think that's ridiculous in Colts ownership. That's just my 2 cents.
Well, you mean holding out his contract, you mean? Or
no, that basically they were downplaying this whole offseason. We were downplaying the idea about the running backs, saying that, with how short tenure the running back position is and such, that the big contracts aren't worth it for them. And that's why you saw Saquon, Josh Jacobs, all of them end their holdouts quick, not long after that Zoom call. But in just my opinion, I think it's ridiculous that they're playing on that and then asking for a first-round pick in return.
Well, with Jim Irsay, in my opinion, is one of the more ridiculous ridiculous owners in all of the NFL. Like, even he's getting up there with Jerry Jones as being one of the biggest assholes in NFL ownership, because this guy who criticizes everybody came out earlier, I think a couple weeks ago, and we talked about it on our show, that basically he's like, well, I could replace you in 5 seconds if you decide not to come in. I mean, how much of a
That's
jerk?
exactly my point. Why? How can you say that and then go, oh, if we want, you guys want a first round pick?
Yeah, I mean, you can't say that someone is easily replaceable and then say, I want the king's ransom back in return. Like, it doesn't work like that. Jim Irsay is, and by the way, according to Tom Pelissero, he's saying that the trade request still stands. So it's still out there. He just didn't get traded.
So I guess their next best opportunity to trade him would be before the trade
Week 5
will be on Halloween this year.
Which means if we can make an amendum, obviously we can't, but can't physically, but make an amendum to our AFC preview yesterday, there's a chance that we could put a question mark around Jonathan Taylor as a potential departure on that team, which would be devastating.
I mean, I don't know. Jim Irsay kind of deserved this partially because he doesn't know how to run a team in ownership. He runs his mouth constantly and doesn't know how to handle it. So you get what you get. You don't get upset, as they say to kids.
All right.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Hank.
Go ahead, Hank.
Yeah, I'm taking the Vikings. Remind me again the over/under for the Vikings.
8.5.
Yeah, I feel like I'm taking the over by default.
All right. Actually, let's talk about the Vikings. We didn't really talk about them.
Okay, let's go.
All right. So
a lot of big departures, though.
A lot of big departures. No Patrick Peterson, Dalvin Tomlinson, Adam Thielen, Zadarius Smith. Marcus Davenport is okay. Byron Murphy, okay. Pickup. Jordan Addison, I know that he has the one legal issue from the speeding for this summer, but it doesn't seem like he'll get suspended for that. I think one of the draft selections, I think one key guy to look out for, guys, that third-round pick, the cornerback, Mekhi Blackman. I think there's a chance he could deliver at the NFL level. And Addison, I think, could be a very decent replacement for Adam Thielen. So I understand what you're saying about potentially taking a step back, that Kirk Cousins in his last year on that contract. But you know what? I think the Vikings are still head and shoulders above the rest of this NFC North. So I'll acquiesce and say not 13 wins, but I think 11 or 12 wins is not impossible. Give me the over big time on Minnesota.
An 8.5 is a very interesting number. You know, there's some that we were like questioning, some that we were like too high, too low. It's kind of on the low side. Now, remember, they did finish 13-4, and they had a minus point differential on the season. In fact, the only team in the NFC North that finished with plus, that finished in the green and out of the red, was the Lions. So I this could be a situation where this also comes down to Week 18. I am going to take the Vikings as an over, and I think it's this division. You almost could add this onto my my fiery hot take here.
You want me to?
It's actually on my. It's part of my fiery hot take.
Okay, so you want me to hit the alarm now, Johnny?
I got it.
No, you don't have to, because it's not an alarm kind of bold take. I mean, I'll get to it once we finish this up. But
Okay.
I think this is part of it. This division is going to come down to Week 18, and I think the Vikings just barely get it, maybe on a tiebreaker. I'm going to take the over, but it's going to be very, very close.
I mean, yeah, I see the Vikings as an over. Tom, what did you say again? Because I didn't hear you.
Oh, over.
Over. Okay, so we all have the over.
Mm-hmm. All right. So it's I'll leave.
Hank had an over?
Yeah.
Yes, I do.
Yeah, he did have over.
Do you want me to give you my division predictions?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes.
Let's go to this.
It's going to be Vikings, Bears, Lions, Packers.
I am going to go with the Vikings to take the division. I think the Lions finish second, the Bears finish third. Actually, you know what? No, I'm going to flip that. The Bears finish second, Lions finish third, the Packers finish fourth, and I think, like the AFC East, 3 teams will make the playoffs in the NFC North. I have the Vikings as a division, and I have the Bears and Lions joining the Seahawks as my 3 wild card selections.
I like it.
Yeah, I mean, I have the Vikings winning the division, and I have the Lions finishing second, Bears third, and the Packers fourth, and I have the first 3 making the playoffs.
I think Nick has the same wild card as me. The Lions and Bears from here, and the Seahawks from the West.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So I'm taking the Vikings just over the Lions. They will both make the playoffs, and then I'm going to take the Bears third and the Packers fourth. And if you want to take my fiery hot take, since now this finally applies, if you like drama-filled football this year, this is going to be your year, because to me, the NFC North, the NFC South, and the AFC East will not be clinched until Week 18.
Whoa!
Yeah. Week 18, when we're here for our Football Friday picks, could be one for the history books. It is going to be that dramatic.
I love it.
Wait,
Yes.
you mean wait a minute? You mean Week 18 will actually be entertaining football and not a waste of time?
Absolutely. I mean, it was in some ways last year, but this year I think it's going to be taken to a whole nother level.
All right. Now your division.
Yes.
There
So
we go.
NFC East, save this one for last year.
We are like
Go ahead, son.
Sometimes you want to save the local one for last, right?
yes.
All right.
But you know what? Actually, this time it doesn't mean that we end with the last place team, because there was one team who did worse than the Giants last year in this division.
Yeah, that's right. And that would be the
The Washington
Commanders.
Commanders.
Who did finish at 8-1 last year, despite the fact that, they were going between Carson Wentz and Taylor Heineke, and then at times Sam Howell, who will be the starter for the Washington Commanders and Ron Rivera's squad. Guys, I don't think the Commanders really improved. I don't know if they got worse, but I don't know how Sam Howell's going to be for a full season.
Well, wait, can I add one thing?
It.
Can I add one thing, though? I would say that, and don't call me crazy when I say this, I think they actually finished 9-8-1 because they got rid of the owner that was toxic in the area.
Okay, yes. They
So
did have that.
They had a winning record. There you go.
When we look at this team, see, here's my problem. You have an uncertain quarterback in Sam Howell, and you've also got an offensive line here that I think is going to force Howell to be among the league leaders in sacks this year for the QB. So that to me is not a good recipe for the Commanders. They could be one of those teams that you could split match. See, the problem is with when they play the Giants, they're probably going to split against the Giants because that's what they do. But when I look at the Commanders here, let's look at their number. Their number is 6.5.
I think that's high.
Little true.
I think that's going to be an under. I think I didn't have this on my takes, but I'll throw it on my. I didn't have this on my takes. I'm not going to throw it on my takes, but I'll throw it out here. I think there's a chance Washington is only a 2 or 3 win team, and I would not be surprised if by Thanksgiving time Ron Rivera is out of a job.
Yeah, but how many times have we heard Ron Rivera get thrown on the chopping block and nothing happened? I mean,
but you know what? I think Washington's going to be, if Sam Howell's truly going to be the starting quarterback of this team, and I don't like the line. I like the Robinson and Gibson as their running back, so that's not going to be enough. And I don't think Scary Terry is going to be having any sort of benefit from having Sam Howell as his quarterback. So I could honestly see these guys being just as bad, if not only a little, slightly minuscule better than the Arizona Cardinals.
who was the guy that was injured for them that had a really bad injury on the defensive end? Didn't they have a guy that was like that they drafted high up? Chase Young. That's a guy to watch also.
And I think his contract's coming up soon. He's going to want to get paid.
And by the way, what about Brissett? Didn't they bring in Brissett?
Yes.
Well, Brissett's now.
He's their backup.
Yeah.
By the way, you know what else applies here? Hey, Tom, you need to pull that quote out from your phone.
Oh, give me a second. You guys continue to talk as I get this ready.
So as you pull that up, I think the other question mark you look at the Commanders here is the same question we're going to bring up with our football giants in just a few minutes here. It's the schedule. Now, it starts out kind of favorable, but then it does get very, very challenging. And that's why I think...
Just for the record, sorry, Johnny, but just for the record, I think all 4 NFC East teams are in the top 10 for toughest schedule.
Yes.
And that makes sense because they all were pretty good last year. I am going to take the Commanders as a slight under. I think maybe 5 to 6 wins is where their ceiling is this year. So I will take the under on that. There's also, it's just, like I said, schedule, the uncertain QB, and the offensive line is not good.
Hank,
All right.
what do you wait? Hank, what do you got first?
Under.
Okay, go ahead, Tom.
Under.
Okay,
And
so
this
Nick,
team
you
is
saying
not only
under?
going to rebuild, and
said
I
under.
think not only is it going to be under Ron Rivera, he gone.
By the way, well, hey, Tom, I think we should ask Bruce Allen his thoughts on the matter.
Yeah, Bruce Allen, what do you think about this team
How
now?
would you describe the culture surrounding this football team? The culture is actually damn good.
Well, you know what? With Dan Snyder gone, it probably is damn good now.
Oy vey.
Under.
All right. But now we're going to go from Bruce Allen to Jerry Jones.
Speaking of another one. All right.
Damn Cowboys.
So not many additions for them. A lot of departures between Zeke and Dalton Schultz.
But these additions, Johnny, aren't that bad. I mean, Brandon Cooks,
Not
Ronald
bad.
Jones, Stephon Gilmore, I like for their defense.
Yeah. Again, they're always one of those teams that are going to be in it. But the question is, are they going to be over the hump? I guess you could also add a key addition here because this just happened, of course, recently, late last week, was the Trey Lance trade.
Trey Lance, yeah.
But, I mean, the thing with that is, and I kind of was thinking about this too. So Mike McCarthy's been able to, one of the talking points was, he's been able to revitalize quarterbacks. Of course, my question mark is by the time Trey Lance has a chance to start there, is Mike McCarthy still going to be the head coach? The problem with Dallas, they're there, but they never get over the hump. That's the thing. I don't know if this team, with a Giants team that's better, that's now relevant, an Eagles team which is still dominant, if this team's going to be ready to take over, is going to be able to take the next step. And we've been waiting for them to do this forever now. They're always stuck in the mud. It's the same thing with them.
Well, Johnny, if you really want to know the reason why I brought in Trey Lance, it's because, well, I'm trying to put the pressure on Dak because I recognize that we need to do something and we need to get over the hump right now because we're the damn Cowboys. So
Yes.
you know what? If Dak doesn't deliver, I'm not going to pay him. I'm just going to let him walk in free agency and just move on to the next best thing because the next best thing is going to make sure that the Dallas Cowboys are Super Bowl champion again. How about them Cowboys?
Yeah, Jerry, it is 2023, and you're talking like 1996 Jerry Jones here. After a while, it gets old. You want to make a comparison between the Packers and the Yankees. I'll tell you right now, and I hate to say this, the Cowboys are like the Knicks because all we talk about is, how much money they make year over year, and it's the same old garbage with them.
Oh, that was too good.
As far as this team goes, guys, this was also this could have been like a fifth bowl take if you want from me. I think the Cowboys are the third best team in the division.
By the way, you ready for the scary number for the Cowboys?
Yes.
Well, yeah, every
10.5. 10.5.
I mean, they
Under.
win 9, or 8. I don't think they're 11 win good. I mean, I know they were 12-5 last year, and that was with crappy quarterback play for the times from Dak. But I don't think they're that good. I think they're okay. I don't think they're great though. So I'm going to take the under.
I'm gonna take. You know what? I'm just gonna reiterate the points that I was saying as Jerry Jones, and I'm gonna take an under. I think they're an 8-9 team. I think they will finish with the same record, if not one game worse than the New York Football Giants. I think Mike McCarthy is out of a job by the end of the season, and I think the Cowboys will like to move on from Dak Prescott after the season.
Yeah, this is easy.
The coach is another big thing too in this.
Yeah, this is easy. I'm taking an under. I mean, they had a lot of departures off this team in the offseason, even though Zeke was kind of a declining running back. I I don't know, now with the Patriots, and according to the Patriots, they said they're using him as a bigger guy to defend as a running back, which I kind of laughed at, by the way. But yeah, I'm taking the under. This is not even a discussion. Like they're not going to win 12 games again this year. Dak, in my opinion, is an overrated quarterback. He's an overrated quarterback who everyone praises the Cowboys. Go ask ESPN. They praise the Cowboys every day. Go ask Chris Collinsworth, who came out for NBC and said that NBC wanted to carry all 17 of the Cowboys games. Think about that.
Well, if you want to keep showing mediocrity, I mean, that's fine.
All right, Hank, over there. Cowboy number.
Oh, boy. Let me give you 2 sentences. Number 1, under, even though it's technically one word. Number 2, Dak is whack.
There you go.
And number 3, I mean, come on. We all know it's a given. It's the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, come on. You just know it's going to be a given with them every single year.
I mean, it's as simple as it gets. I mean, when does McCarthy lose his job?
Let me ask this question again. What do the Cowboys and Pamela Anderson have in common?
They're from the 90s.
They're stuck in the 90s.
Yep.
Yeah.
And again, I think because 9-8 could get a wild card, at least in my mind, in this conference, I'm going to say for McCarthy, I don't think it's a mid-season. I think McCarthy's a Black Monday firing.
Possible. I mean, if we're projecting them to be an under and not make the playoffs this year, there's no way he survives this year.
No.
And especially because he's made some very questionable, coaching decisions while he's been in Dallas. So, yeah, I'm going to take the under.
All right. Before we get to what
you're going to go to Philly next, right?
Yeah. All right. So before we get to our beloved football Giants, it's time to talk about the defending conference champions.
Boy,
I think this is the best team in the NFL.
Yeah. I mean, what they did this offseason, and yes, I know they lost some guys, but look at all of the pickups as well to go along. I mean, Swift, Penny, James Bradbury, also Jalen Carter on defense, Nolan Smith, the offensive linebacker. Guys, this is one of arguably the best run team in the NFL. It's crazy because we talk about how the mess the Cowboys are run, and look at how the Eagles are run. I have to respect that. Now, last year they went 14-3. Jalen Hurts did miss a couple of games there with injury. Obviously, that's probably the only thing that's going to derail the Eagles this year is that Jalen Hurts is going to miss any significant length of time. But we can't assume that's going to happen. So their over-under this year was kind of low, 11.5. I think they easily get to 12 wins this year. Probably one of my safer plays this year. I would take the over. I got to respect what they're doing. It is pretty remarkable, especially, talk about one of the best connections. We were talking about that almost all preview, best connections in the NFL. Hurts to A.J. Brown. I mean, can't beat that. So I'm going to take the Eagles as an over and an NFC East winner here.
I just want to throw one thing out. Also, isn't it true, Johnny, that like the Eagles have become like a Georgia light, like from defense?
A lot of guys on defense from Georgia, yes, over the last couple of years. N'Kobe Dean is another one who got brought in there. Yeah, their defense they are like the Philadelphia Bulldogs. Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought I heard. Okay.
Yeah, no, you are 100% right, Nick. Absolutely.
And I mean, and I like what you were saying before, Johnny, because it's perfect that it's like with all the different departures, all the talent that goes out, and yet some new great talent goes in. So out goes Miles Sanders, in goes DeAndre Swift and Rashad Penny. Out goes Kaiser White, TJ Edwards, in comes Nicholas Morrow. In comes James Bradbury and Terrell Edmonds. And then Jalen Carter adding in him and Nolan Smith. They got 2 guys in the first round. Yeah. I think this was, I'll just flat out say it. Here is everybody else in the NFC, regardless of what we were talking about, whether it's Vikings, Cardinals, all the way. Here's everybody else, and here's the Philadelphia Eagles. It's
not a competition.
No. And I know we'll talk about our postseason stuff, in a little bit after we do the Giants, but the Philadelphia Eagles I see running through the NFC East and the NFC. The NFC again, let alone the NFC East. It's not even close.
We're talking about 13 or 14 wins, probably.
I have them as 14. I have them at 14-3 for this season.
They're essentially a favorite in every game that they play.
Nick, let me just bring this up real quick. Defensively, I'm going to give you these guys. Ready? Jalen Carter, Georgia. Jordan Davis, Georgia. N'Kobe Dean, Georgia. Nolan Smith, Georgia. Kelly Ringo, Georgia. And they also have on offense.
It's proving my
DeAndre
point.
Swift, running back, Georgia.
Yeah.
And DeAndre Swift, I said that, Georgia. So, yeah, they are on defense. They're definitely the Georgia Bulldogs. And on offense, they also have.
And by the way, they're doing the right thing. Georgia's national champs. I mean, like, they're the best team in college. So why wouldn't you take from the best team in college football?
You know what, though? That also speaks to how great Georgia is recruiting. I mean, they're trying this year in college football to do something that hasn't been done since the 30s.
Three-peat.
And that's three-peat. And it's very hard to do that, but, I mean, you got to give them a chance. But I don't think it's going to be as easy this year, but we'll talk about that somewhere else. Yeah, 12, 13 wins for the Eagles, not out of the realm of possibility for sure.
All right, it's go time now.
And, Hank, you have the over, right?
Yeah.
For the Eagles?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right, let's get to the main event here.
Woo!
New York Football Giants, again, another one of the best stories in the league last year with obviously the coach of the year and Brian Dable.
I just want to say, by the way, like I said, we're doing this on the final cut day, so a little out of date. Crowder, Beasley, and Urware have all been cut.
Yeah, and that kind of makes sense because you do have Wan'Dale Robinson being activated off the PUP list, so he'll be there too. You know, I got to tell you, like, I thought one of the best things they did this offseason, obviously, you know, re-signing Daniel Jones, the way they handled the Saquon Barkley thing was they did both of those the right way. The Darren Waller trade, I got to tell you, I mean, that was such a great move because the wide receiver market this offseason was not that great. It was not favorable for a Giant, for the kind of team the Giants needed. So what you do, you go out there and get somebody who's probably better than any of the receivers that would have been out there, and Darren Waller, and you pretty much all you did was trade
mid-round picks.
And one of them was a guy whose name is blanking off my mind right now. But anyway, I mean, you bring him in as long as Darren Waller can stay healthy. I mean, he's one of the better tight ends in the league this year. Now, the interesting thing is going to be with them is the schedule this year. It's been documented before. 7 of their first 10 games are on the road. Now, the Giants seem to always play better on the road for whatever reason it is. But I trust Dable. I trust Joe Shane. I trust this coaching staff to get the job done. I think you're going to be sweating at times this year for the Giants, but there's a reason why this is one of the better coaching staffs in the league this year, and got them to win a playoff game last season when they probably were the worst talented team of the 14 teams that were in the playoffs last year, but they had the best system of any of the 14 teams in the playoffs last year.
The one stretch I would watch for in the Giants season is weeks 3 through, let me count it, 3, 4, 5 weeks 3 through 6.
Yeah, because Johnny, Hank, Nick, and Nick, we were doing this together, which is what you were referring to. But in the words of one of my favorite panelists on Around the Horn, Woody Page, check the schedule. They have the Cowboys, Cardinals. So the Cowboys, Cardinals. But as Nick was referring to, that stretch from week 3 on, the 49ers, the Seahawks, the Dolphins, the Bills, the Commanders, and the Jets.
That's a tough stretch.
It's tough. I mean, you know, I don't see them beating Dallas week 1 just because, you know, the Cowboys always get up for the Giants, but they got a favorable matchup in Arizona.
And then the monster stretch starts.
Well, so I don't think they beat San Francisco in San Francisco. I think they can beat Seattle because it's not at Lumen Stadium. I think Miami's going to be a shootout. I think Buffalo's going to be challenging, but Dable going back there. Yeah, you know, like you said, if they get to week 8 against the Jets, and I don't know if they beat the Jets because, you know, Woody Johnson thinks that's his Super Bowl every year, beating the Giants.
Which is kind of bizarre if you think about it.
Well, because Woody Johnson wants attention more than he wants wins. That's what it's all about with him.
Well, if he wants attention, he can go be in the White House, which he loves
Actually,
better than
that also
NFL.
failed too. That also failed too.
You're right. But
Nick, I think there's another thing.
You know what? Here's what I take. If I'm a Giants fan, I get through week 8 at 4-4, and then they could go to Dallas.
Yeah.
I mean, they could go to beat Vegas, challenge Dallas, beat Washington, beat New England, get to the bye week at 7-5, and then and then play Green Bay, New Orleans, and
here's the problem.
And Los Angeles. There's 10 wins I can see right there.
Wait. Hold on. I want to point out one thing though, because Tom and I agreed on this. Whoever the freaking schedule, I'm going to go to the freaking scheduler again. Who puts Philly games in 2 out of the last 3 games? That makes no sense.
And here is where I get a little, and this is where I need to hammer expectations. It's because here's what I can honestly see going with that rough stretch. I honestly see a 1-5 start to this team. I think they're going to be like the Lions of last year, where they start 1-5 and then the Giants are going to win like 5 of 6 or 6 of 7, and then all of a sudden be 500 by the break.
But here's the problem, and I do see a road in theory of that.
But I am saying the fact that the Giants play the Eagles twice in the last 3 weeks, I'm guaranteeing you that's going to cost them a playoff spot.
Of course it is, because those are 2 large games. The team is going to be tired when they're down the stretch. The Eagles are more prepared. And
even if Philly is clinched up by week 18, the Philly people are just going to want to take pleasure and play their starters just to knock the Giants out.
Wasn't there an incident? I don't remember what year it was on NBC Sunday Night Football
when the Eagles rested against the Commanders. It's
didn't they get fined a draft pick or whatever?
No, they didn't get fined anything. But had the Eagles won that, the Giants would have gotten in in the playoffs with a 500 record.
I just remember it being a huge controversy when it happened.
No, it was.
And speaking of the schedule, can we stop opening up against Dallas every year?
Okay,
we haven't done it. So we
haven't opened up against Dallas. Their home opener is against Dallas. It's like,
Johnny, you're not going to win that one. The NFL is about what?
Come on. Yeah, there's other ways to do it, though.
All right, but you know what? Let's hear from the big Giants fan here, the one with the cap on his head right now. And not saying we're not big Giants fans, but I think
Hank studies them like a language.
Yeah, and has hosted shows about the Giants before. I think Hank needs to have a floor here.
Yes. All right. Well, I'm glad you were giving me the floor, and I was definitely waiting for this. So, having said that, I think the Giants are definitely taking a step in the right direction next year. And you know what? I am going to agree with Johnny because I think 10 wins is very much realistic. Look at what they did this offseason. They exchanged one of the picks that we got for Kadarius Toney. And by the way, thank you, Kadarius Toney, for taking a Super Bowl ring away from the Eagles. Much appreciated. Giants fans send you this little fruit basket in exchange for it. That ended up becoming one of the pieces they traded to get Darren Waller. Great get. I think having him definitely improves your tight end game. I thought, even though I like the other guy, I think Waller's definitely better. Paris Campbell was a good get. He needed more weapons for Daniel Jones. And I also loved the signing of Okereke. And I haven't even gotten into the Isaiah Simmons trade. That was an absolute trade robbery.
Arizona's tanking.
I understand the Cardinals, he didn't necessarily play up to his potential in Arizona, but it's funny. There were a lot of people that were debating, do we want Andrew Thomas or Isaiah Simmons? Guess what?
We got both.
We got the best of both worlds. Okay, sorry, that was a horrible Miley Cyrus thing, but we got both of those guys. And listen, he fits perfectly into Wink Martindale's system. He's gonna blitz like crazy, and now to have an extra weapon like Simmons in there, that's huge. And I haven't even gotten to the draft yet. Deontay Banks was solid, even though I probably would have taken Joey Porter with that. It seems to me like Banks is a guy who would fit Wink's scheme better. And then Schmitz, with a wrestling background, is definitely a good get at center. And I've been watching film on Hyatt. He's good. And I think getting Eric Gray is definitely smart in the 5th round because, look, Saquon's probably going to be gone after this year. And let's say you spread the ball around to your other running backs. You're not really getting much complaints from me about Joe Shane's offseason, in all honesty. I think the Giants, I was on record for giving the Giants like an A- or a B+. Now, granted, they're not a better team than the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm sorry to say. The Eagles are just way too talented. But given how all things have been considered, I think you have to really start taking the Giants seriously. And look, if they make the playoffs and somehow avoid Philly, are in a position where they can avoid Philly, I would say that the NFC title game would be their ceiling.
Oh, wow.
Oof. All right. So actually, let me give my last of my hot takes because you brought up Barkley, and I did mention a potential 1-5 start for the Giants. Because if you remember, guys, last year when we did this preview, Nick and Johnny, you were with me. I said that last year, if the Giants were basically starting off with a 1 or 2 and whatever record, I said by the deadline they would move Saquon Barkley. I think what's going to happen is they're going to start 1-5. They're going to start to go on that stretch. By the time Halloween comes, I have them as 2-6. I think this time they're going to elect. I say this time in terms of my prediction. I think this time I'm thinking that they're going to hold on to Barkley only because of what happened with this last offseason. And I think they're going to want to keep him away from some of the other teams because now, if I'm not mistaken, I think they can tag Barkley again after this season if they wanted to.
You can't tag. Actually, is the rule you can tag in 2 seasons? I don't think you can tag after 2 seasons.
I think it's
2 consecutive.
You're talking about the possibility of that happening again with Jonathan Taylor.
I think you can tag consecutive seasons, but you can't tag a third. They have to become a free agent after 2 seasons.
Okay, so no, but that's what I'm saying. I think they'll hold on to him because especially if he gets injured again during the season, I would not be surprised if they hold on to him and tag him again after the season. Here's my thing. For a bare minimum, I know Johnny and Hank are going on the 10 wins, but the schedule, that long stretch, that long monster stretch, and the 2 out of 3 in the last 3 weeks against Philadelphia, I think is going to come back to bite the Giants, where they're only like 8, they finish only 8-9. Here's my thing though. Long term, I don't think it's going to be too detrimental for the Giants because next year they get the NFC South and the AFC North. And we were just talking all about how the NFC South is a very weak division. If those teams continue to be stagnant and my prediction lives up where the division winner finishes 8-9 and the Browns don't step up and the Bengals take a step back and the Ravens take a step back, and I mean, the Ravens don't take a step back, but don't get over the hump. You're looking at next season being a very easy schedule for the Giants. So I think this is the thing. If you can manage to be a 500 team like you were last year with this tough schedule, I think that's going to speak volumes about Dable and Shine, and that's going to speak volumes about the resilience of this team. And if they do get to 10 wins and get the playoff spot, even more so.
Okay, but my question to you is, if they win 10, who are they taking a playoff spot away from?
Dallas.
No, no, I think he's talking about within our 3 wild, because I said the Bears, Seahawks, and Lions, and this is going to sound bad because we were so shocked with Hank's prediction, but I think at that point it'd be the Lions that we take the playoff spot from.
Oh, that's ridiculous. The Lions are a better team than the Giants. I mean, don't get me wrong. The Giants, again, I think we all are in agreement that I think the Giants are an over. That's the easiest over.
Oh, the 7.5? Yeah, over. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't think they're getting to 10 wins, but I think they'll definitely be over. They'll win 8 or 9, and I think they might just miss the playoffs right beyond the cusp because there are a lot of good teams. There are a lot of good teams this time around.
Well, you have the opinion that I have that the last 2 of the last 3 games being against the Eagles is going to cost.
That's going to screw them because at least if you spread them out and then you have a better chance because you don't know when a team is playing good or bad.
Unless the Eagles rest their starters week 18. But like I said, I've got a feeling Philly just might do an FU to New York and play their starters just to.
I think that's stupid if they do that, because what happens if Jalen Hurts gets hurt, or if
I know we had that conversation about Staley and the Chargers, and I think Staley's going to get fired after this season, but
it's definitely over. I'm not arguing with you guys.
Yeah, no, I think we're all in agreement.
Be over, but I think it's going to be 8 or 9.
500. Well, obviously, can't be 500 because of the odds game. But 8 or 9. Let's still say 500. 500 should be your bare minimum goal, and then I think 10 games is the next level.
Yeah, I don't think that's out of the realm. But like the thing I was going to say is, if they start 1-5, or you said 2-6 by Halloween, you know how hard that is to dig out.
Yeah.
But you know what? But you saw how the second half it gets much weaker, that schedule, and how easier it gets.
All right, but let's be real. Like, just because we say certain things are going to happen, we all have clunkers. The Jets are going to have clunkers. The Giants are going to have clunkers.
Oh, I'm not. Oh, what do we say about any given Sunday?
That's right.
But my point is, like, it's going to be tough. Like, we're expecting a lot. Like, if they start 2-6, that's a lot to expect.
But you know what?
Back.
Bottom line, we're all saying it's the Eagles, right?
Yeah, the Eagles are gonna win the division. I don't have any other team making it out of here, though.
Yeah, neither do I. All right. So now, before we wrap things up, I want to quickly just go over some postseason early predictions for some postseason awards. I don't have slides for these, so we're just going to use our little banners here. So let's start first let's go from bottom to top. So let's start with the comeback player of the year.
I think this is the easiest one, and I think we're all in agreement on it, right?
Well, yeah, I think we're in agreement, and I think we know where they would be going with this. But I'm going to give you another one that I think's got a very good shot too. But I think we're all in agreement. We could say his name on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3.
Damar Hamlin.
Damar Hamlin.
But I'll tell you right now, my number 2 guy, and I think he's also got a legitimate chance, Calvin Ridley.
Yeah, I think he could, especially if the Jaguars continue to build upon their success that they had last season. I think if Tua has a healthy season and the Dolphins win the division, I think he could also be in that mix. But I think Hamlin.
Time though. That the problem is he didn't miss enough time though to really be considered comeback player
of
the year, though.
I think what he's trying to imply is that because of the concussion situation and trying to recover from it, but I see where that's coming from. But Tua's got to actually win games and stay on the field.
But I think those are all distant seconds because we know Damar Hamlin's going to win the award because of the whole thing with Monday Night Football last year, coming back, making the roster, and hopefully the Bills continue to be a top team in that conference.
Yeah.
I mean, the man was almost
clinically dead.
For what, 15 seconds or whatever? I mean,
I remember it was the first thing we led off 2023 with.
I mean, that was one of the crazy stories. Like, I think Tom and I, we were live after the whole thing happened, essentially.
We taped a couple of days later, but at that point, we were still trying to figure out what the hell was going to happen with that game.
I mean, and then Skip Bayless decided to shit all over everybody and cause a shitstorm. But
all right, rookies of the year, offensive and defensive.
Okay, let's take a look here.
We're a little different here.
Well, most of us are in agreement that it's Jalen Carter. However, I think number 2.
I'm going something different, guys. I'm going with Will Anderson from Texas and from Houston. I think the reason why Jalen Carter might get hurt in this category is because that whole defensive line for the Eagles is so dangerous that he may not need to put up a ton of numbers to really stand out. I think Will Anderson down there with the Houston Texans has a chance to really shine and really surprise a lot of teams. If you go back and check the AFC preview, I gave a very interesting prediction about that AFC South. So I think Will Anderson Jr. there from Alabama now with the Houston Texans will be the rookie of the year. Jalen Carter, I mean, we'll see what his mindset now is now that he's on a pro team, that he's made it into the league. We'll see.
Well, also, you have the controversy with the car crash and the unexpected death. And
that's what I'm saying. I mean, it affected him during the combine. We saw that.
He was out of shape.
Yeah, and that's part of the reason why his value dropped as much as it did. Now, offensive rookie of the year, it's actually split between.
There's three and three.
Yeah, so you guys, Nick and Ash, Nick and Hank.
So it's me
and Tom. You and I both went the same. So Nick, Hank, explain yours.
Which one are we talking about? Offensive rookie of the year?
Rookie of the year, yeah.
Yeah.
So I went with Bryce Young. Yeah. Go ahead.
So I just want to clarify for those because we were just talking over. So it's going to be me, Johnny, and Paul Lombardi, who couldn't be here, are going with Bijan Robinson. Meanwhile, Ben Cruz, who also couldn't be here, Hank and Nick are going with Bryce Young.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, but two key rookies who are competing in the same division, by the way.
Yeah.
I still think Bryce Young is going to be an amazing talent. Like I said, I think he's going to be a franchise quarterback in the trajectory of Patrick Mahomes. I'm not going to say no one's going to be Patrick Mahomes, but I could see Bryce Young being like a guy that will be like a 10 to 15 year guy with the Panthers, but long term. And if Hank is right and he wins the division, then he has to be the offensive rookie of the year.
No, it's certainly the case. I think the reason why, and I don't know what Tom's reason is for this, but the reason why I chose Bijan Robinson is because the Falcons are going to be a run-heavy team this year. I don't think Desmond Ridder's going to be throwing the ball much. They're going to run more than they pass, and I think Bijan's going to explode down there in Atlanta for some big, big runs. And that's what they did last year a lot with Arthur Smith, is they had a lot of running plays. I think he's going to do that there as well. But, Bryce Young's a very solid choice. And let me tell you, if Carolina gets it right with him, that team is going to be set and maybe very quietly could be very sneaky in the postseason.
Yeah, I'm not gonna undermine the Bryce Young pick because he's definitely a solid number 2 in my rankings. And I think if Carolina does win, he should be favored then for Rookie of the Year. But I just think, as Johnny said, going to be a very run-heavy team on that Atlanta offense. And it's not like one of those situations where we're talking about with the likes of Nick Chubb and company, where Nick was saying the other day about, stacking the box on every play. I don't know if you can do that when the Falcons still have Tyler Allegier and they still have Cordarrelle Patterson. So they got the three-headed monster, which I think could help lead to some success for the Falcons, and potentially even with a 500 record or just under it, winning the division.
See.
All right.
What do we have?
Now we go from the rookies. We go from rookies to just players of the year.
Mm-hmm.
We start splitting up a little bit. I'll go for here first. My offensive player of the year, and I differed from everybody on this one. I am going with Christian McCaffrey from the 49ers. And again, it's kind of like what we just spoke about with the Falcons. I think they're going to be even though they have options on the receiving side between Brock Purdy and possibly Sam Darnold, I think McCaffrey's going to have a resurgence there. And I think as long as he stays healthy, which I know I'm kind of gambling on, I think he's going to go off in a big way. He had a great resurgence there when he got traded. So I think he's going to continue it there. My defensive player of the year, again, I'm differing from everybody on this. I am going with TJ Watt there in Pittsburgh. You saw how valuable he was there last year. When he was hurt, the Steelers were awful. When he came back, the Steelers had a resurgence and got to over 500. So I'm going with TJ Watt there in Pittsburgh.
All right, so Nick Morgasen and I are actually in agreement on our players of the year. Offensive player of the year, as we said, the Cousins to Jefferson combo is still one of the best in National Football League. Jefferson, he's the number one. He's the 1.01 in fantasy for 2023 for a reason. He is an unbelievably explosive talent. There was all these fears about Minnesota losing a step when they traded Stephon Diggs over to Buffalo. And, oh, man, did Justin Jefferson make up for that and then some. He has done some unbelievable things. He is the best receiver. And you could actually argue this because Devontae Adams and the Raiders are kind of on the downhill. DeAndre's not who he is. You could argue Justin Jefferson is the best wide receiver in this league. So you know what? I say lightning strikes twice. I know it's kind of hard to do, but I think lightning strikes twice, 2 years in a row. He wins Offensive Player of the Year. Defensive Player of the Year, I think one thing that's going to be key for the New York Jets that we didn't talk about, because we can focus on Aaron Rodgers and Dalvin Cook all we want. And actually, I'm going to extend this to both New York teams because I didn't bring this up in the Giants conversation. I should have, is because we talked about Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley, but for both New York teams, it's the damn defenses. How many times did we credit, the likes of Kayvon Thibodeau and company for keeping the Giants in the game? And how much did we credit for the Jets? We said the best thing they have, the Super Bowl caliber talent that they have, is on the defense. And who has led them in that defense? Well, while the Giants had Thibodeau, the Jets have had Sauce Gardner. And you know what? Sauce Gardner proved himself for the Rookie of the Year and then some. And I think this year he furthers himself. I don't think there's a sophomore slump. I think Sauce Gardner wins your Defensive Player of the Year.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, he pretty much echoed most of what I said. I think Justin Jefferson has the best pair of hands in the NFL right now. I think even though I mentioned I don't like this player before. As much as I hated Odell had the best hands in the NFL for quite a
and
few
he
years.
has Odell hand. I think he has a little more than Odell hands, Jefferson.
We've seen some magician acts of Justin Jefferson catching footballs, and I think his out routes are some of the best in all of the NFL. I mean, and also his corner into the end zone. I mean, he catches the football. He's a human target. Cousins could put the ball anywhere. He's pretty much going to catch it. So that's where I see it as Offensive Player of the Year. Obviously, no bias here for Defensive Player of the Year. Sauce Gardner is a beast. And when he is right and healthy, he can take down any quarterback or any player necessary to put pressure on any team. When he's right, this team is going to compete. It's going to be a Super Bowl defense. Now they have a quarterback in place in Aaron Rodgers who can play better offensively, put points up. Now the defense is not under as much pressure. So that's how I see it.
So Ben Cruz and Paul actually both were in agreement. They say Justin Jefferson as well for Offensive Player of the Year. They're going with Micah Parsons as Defensive Player of the Year. Now Hank did say, by the way, Sauce Gardner. He agreed with me and Nick about the Defensive Player of the Year at Sauce. However, for offensive, hopefully you can explain this a little.
I will. Trust me.
AJ Brown. I like it though. I do like it though.
I happen to like AJ Brown. I've had him in fantasy before a bunch of times.
Here's my thing. Because when you look at Philadelphia's offense, look how many receivers you can throw to. You can't double coverage any of them. I mean, granted, they'll probably be spreading the ball around, but if you give AJ Brown the ball, I'm sorry, but you're in trouble.
He's a human target also.
And by the way, I think talent-wise, he's absolutely insane.
By the way, he's one of the best long ball guys in the NFL.
Yes!
I'll never understand why the Titans traded him.
But you know why they traded him? Because they doubled down on the Julio Jones mistake, and John Robinson essentially panicked. And like I said, that's one of a number of moves he's made that set that team back.
Well, he didn't want to pay AJ Brown, and the Eagles said, "All right, come to Philly, we'll pay you." And guess what?
Again, there's a reason that he no longer had a job even when they were in first place.
Well, that sounds about right.
There's a reason he no longer has a job, and why Howie Roseman is arguably one of the best GMs in the league.
I don't understand why you would separate a Derrick Henry and an AJ Brown combo. That's one of the best in the history of the NFL, in my opinion. But I guess to each their own.
You also paid a lot of money to Ryan Tannehill, but moving on.
Yeah. Coach of the Year. Here's another one. So we have 2 awards left. One we're very split on, and one we're all pretty unanimous. This one's the one we're pretty split on. So I'm just going to run through very quick before we go into our explanations. So I went with Dan Campbell. Nick went with Nick Sirianni. Johnny went with Dan Campbell. Ben went with Dan Campbell. Hank went with Andy Reid. And Paul went with Frank Reich.
That's the mystery box of this list here.
You know what? I got to tell you, Paul's pick was my second choice, Frank Reich. You know, when I think of Coach of the Year, I always think of somebody who takes their team either, surprises the team or takes it to the next level. I think that's what Dan Campbell's going to do there in Detroit. But Frank Reich, if Carolina ends up winning the NFC South with with the moves that they made, where they were at one point last year to possibly winning the NFC South, I mean, I think that's a solid choice there, Frank Reich. But I think Dan Campbell's going to take the Lions to their first playoff berth in a while, and with the possibility of a great defense there and the weapons they have on offense, I mean, and how weak that division is becoming, I mean, all the power to him. That's why I think Dan Campbell's going to get it.
I mean, just for my sake, with Nick Sirianni, one play is the difference between them winning a Super Bowl last time around. Not saying that they should have overturned the call. I think they got the call right, by the way. But one call was the difference between them winning a game. They competed with Patrick Mahomes the whole time in that Super Bowl. And if it took a heroic act by Mahomes, even when hurt, to come back and win that game.
Right.
So Nick Sirianni is a motivator as a head coach. He knows how to get these guys to win. And I think if they could just tweak one or two things, they might win the Super Bowl this year, possibly. So I see Nick Sirianni being that real motivator.
I just think with what we talked about before, I know Hank was very much against it, but Dan Campbell, I mean, if there's been somebody who has been motivating their team to the nth degree, think about it. They were one game away. Had the Seahawks not won in that Week 18 game, the Lions would have made the playoffs. And there's a realistic chance that they could be in the same kind of situation this time around. And I think, like I said, because of my opinion about what could happen with the Giants with their tough schedule, I think this is a big opportunity for the Lions to finally get back into the playoffs. This, especially also considering that the Packers are now on the downward trend, it seems, with no Aaron Rodgers. So this could be a, now or never kind of situation just to simply make the playoffs for Dan Campbell. And if he does, he could be awarded for it with a Coach of the Year.
Let's see what happens.
All right. MVP, guys, count of three. 1, 2, 3.
Patrick
Mahomes.
It's gonna be, he's head and shoulders. Actually, I'm not gonna say head and shoulder because I think there was a little debate within our inner circle about the potential of Jalen Hurts also getting in there for the MVP. And you know what? I definitely can see that. But Pat Mahomes is he's the magic man. Anything this guy touches turns to gold. You can't even leave 15 seconds for him, and he'll somehow turn that into a touchdown.
What was it against Buffalo? I think he had 10 seconds.
Yeah.
I think part of it, too, with me is why I pick Mahomes, as I think he's actually got less receiving talent than – and it's not a knock, but he's got less receiving talent. He's doing it with less than what Jalen Hurts is doing there.
I agree.
In Philadelphia. I mean, the guys that they brought in there last year, and Tom, you mentioned it in the AFC show, this like the Sky Moores of the world and what they're able to – what he gets out of them. I mean, it's kind of like Brady in that regards because Brady was doing this with a lot of no-name receivers, too, at certain times during their run.
I mean, you have guys like Pringle.
An incredible quarterback.
You have guys like Pringle also, that really step up.
Yeah, I know he's also got the best. He's got Travis Kelce, obviously, but some of these receivers, you guys you've never even heard of unless you were paying very, very close attention to college.
I mean, if you don't have Kelce, I don't think. This is going to be a bold take, but if he doesn't have Kelce, I don't think he wins any titles at all.
It becomes a lot more challenging to do so.
Yes.
So
yeah, it's not much
pay that man a lot of money.
Yeah.
Big time. All right. One last thing quickly here. Your early prediction. AFC title game, NFC title game, and Super Bowl 58.
We're all in the same realm for the most part.
We all have the Chiefs and Eagles making the Final Four. So for the sake of the guys who are not here, I'll run through them quickly. Ben has Chiefs over Bengals for AFC, 49ers over Eagles for NFC, and then he has the 49ers winning the Super Bowl and somehow overcoming the Chiefs, which is quite a shock from my end. Paul has the Chiefs over the Jets in the AFC, the 49ers over the Vikings in the NFC, and then Paul, the Chiefs fan, has the Chiefs over the 49ers in
you knew that. You knew that was going to happen.
All right, I will lead off with mine. So I think the Bills to bash against Nick's take. I think the Bills will make back to the AFC title game, except there's a problem. There's going to be one big obstacle in his way, and we just said his name. It's Patrick Mahomes. I think the Chiefs beat the Bills in the AFC title game. NFC title game, you all will come after me. I'll show some bias like Paul did. I'm going to put the Vikings there in the NFC title game, but let's be real. It does not matter if it's the 49ers or the Vikings or the Lions, whoever you put on the other side of the NFC, the Eagles are beating them. And I will give some solace to my Giants in what I said about the Eagles pretty much ruining their playoff chance in my take. You're going to lose to the best because I think the Eagles go in there and they get revenge. Philadelphia beats Kansas City in the Super Bowl.
It's not bad. The way I see it is I'm trying to go based on the takes I made. So I said, Aaron Rodgers got to win 10 games. He's got to win rounds. I think if he gets past that first round, I think he's got an easier road to get to where to go.
But does he get past the obstacle in Patrick Mahomes?
Now, that's the problem. I think it'll be entertaining television. It'll be probably one of the most watched football games in a long time. If you get Aaron Rodgers versus Patrick Mahomes, I actually think it would be a close game. I think because in playoff games you throw out everything else. Usually there's less scoring in playoff games. But I think in the long run, Patrick Mahomes is fourth quarter Patrick Mahomes. Like, it kind of reminds me of what Eli did in the fourth quarter of games, like in the playoffs. Like, he knew that when he had to step it up and play. Patrick Mahomes knows when to step it up. So the Chiefs are going to beat the Jets. And again, I have a rematch of the NFC with the Eagles and the 49ers in a title game. I think the Niners are going to fall apart. Usually by the end of the season, they do. And I'm going to take the Eagles back there. And I know it's tough to repeat, but Patrick Mahomes is Patrick Mahomes. How do you go against him? It's one of those things. It's like when Tom Brady was in the Super Bowl. How do you go against Tom Brady in the Super Bowl, even if he wasn't a favorite? So I have the Chiefs repeating.
Let's go to Hank.
So, Chiefs against the Bengals, I have in the AFC Championship. I mean, yes, I know, Tom.
DDTV.
But even with the Orlando Brown thing, I feel like the early losses for the Bengals are going to come back to hurt them because of home field. And I don't want to hear any more talk about how Burrow it's Burrowhead Stadium. Like, that was just straight up disrespectful.
It was. Didn't the mayor get involved in that also, if I'm not mistaken?
Yes.
The lesson here is don't get cocky. I'm sorry, but guess what? Here's the quarterback food chain here, if I may. Mahomes eats Burrow. Burrow eats Allen. And everybody pretty much eats Zach Wilson. But yeah, give me the Chiefs over the Bengals. And last but certainly not least, I was being a little bit of a homer with the Giants thing, but sadly, even if my thing did come to fruition, there's no way in hell we're beating the Eagles in the NFC Championship game. I'm sorry, it's just.
So you have a Chiefs-Eagles rematch as well.
Yep, but unlike Nick, I have the Chiefs winning yet again because, like I said, if history is any thing to look at.
Well, no, I said the Chiefs are winning.
No, he pointed at you.
Oh no! I'm sorry, Tom. I'm sorry.
You meant unlike Tom because Tom has the Eagles.
Unlike me because I picked the Eagles.
Yes. Sorry, didn't mean to confuse you guys.
It's been a long day.
Yeah, long day.
Okay.
I have the Chiefs winning because, like I said, I see them literally on a similar path as the OG Pats dynasty, and I think I even told you guys. But if you look at last year's Chiefs season, it literally was almost exactly the same as the 2003 Patriots.
Yeah.
True. All right, Johnny, close us out. What's your pick?
I'm going to be a little bold here in the AFC title game. It's very hard to bet against Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. I think they make it back there. I tell you, though, and I mentioned this team earlier, I think there's going to be a middle finger tour from one Lamar Jackson and one Patrick Mahomes. And, Tom, I am DDTB. I do disrespect the Bengals in this spot. I'm going with the Baltimore Ravens to go to the AFC Championship, but they're just not going to have enough firepower, and their defense will not be enough to stop Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. So I think I agree with everybody. I got Kansas City going back to the big game. Now, this is where I'm going to be a little bit bold also in the NFC title game. I am going back with the rematch with the Eagles and the 49ers, except this time the difference is the 49ers will be healthier in that spot than they were. I would like to have seen if the quarterback situation was healthier when they played them. And I think if it is the case, I think San Fran does get it done this time around. So I'm going to go with a rematch of the Super Bowl from a few years back, the Chiefs and the 49ers, but this time it will be Kansas City that does get it done again. So I am going to take – it's tough to repeat. You can't bet against Patrick Mahomes, and I think he gets it done again. So the Chiefs over the 49ers in Super Bowl 58.
Well, I think your Super Bowl matchup is a mismatch. If the 49ers get up against the Chiefs, I think the Chiefs are just too good.
Yeah, that defense, though, will be the thing. And, one question and one thing we have to watch, and who knows this might already be answered by the time this premieres, but the Nick Bosa thing for the 49ers is a big, big deal for them defensively because that 49ers defense is still good enough to stop anybody. I think two problems between the injuries that of the quarterback position last year in that NFC Championship game and the fact that defense was out there for such a long time. I think that's ultimately what did in San Fran last year. So I want to see them healthy against the Chiefs, against the Eagles in the NFC title game rematch, and see what happens.
Yeah, this is going to be a fun NFL season. Finally, with the NFL back, which means content time for the ETB Network.
Yeah, do you want to do? We kind of all said it. Number 1 overall pick.
Yeah, it was the Cardinals.
We all said Arizona. We all did say Arizona. Overrated team. We all vary in that one.
Underrated. We all varied.
We're all over the board.
Majority said the Panthers. Actually, it was all Panthers and Giants. Tom and Hank said the Giants, and the rest of us did take the Panthers. Overrated team. I differed from everybody else. Of course, who else did I go with? I go with the team that's overrated every single year, and that's the Dallas Cowboys. But that I think will put a bow on not only the AFC but the NFC NFL preview. So, guys, it's good to catch up with all of you again. Folks, if you like all of this, we are just getting started. Of course, first and foremost, follow us across all of our social media platforms, Facebook, X, and Instagram right there. Game on ETB, ETB Sports, HFTC ETB, 3&D ETB, and so much more. Of course, follow the Empty the Bench Podcast Network at ETB Network. Our personal handles there right below our names as well. Of course, check out our YouTube channel, which has all of our content visually at youtube.com/ETB Network. If you like our shows, leave us a like. If you're new, hit that subscribe button. Of course, have your notifications set now more than ever so you know when all of our content is going to be out there. And, of course, if you can't watch us, listen to us on the go on your favorite audio podcast platform, Acast, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your favorite podcasts. That's how you do it. And etbpodcast.com for all of our blog posts.
Yeah, we're going to be heavy. We're going to be heavy on NFL content on the blog this time around.
So check that out. Of course, you can check me out on my Montie Moments, which air Tuesdays through Thursdays at 7 p.m. Eastern here on the Empty the Bench Podcast Network. And then we will all be back together Fridays at noon starting Friday, September 8th for week number 1 of Football Friday. Yes, it is back. All the shenanigans. If you thought last year was fun, we just are getting started. We are going to take it to the next step and beyond starting next Friday, September the 8th at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific.
Yeah, we have a lot coming up. Also, just quickly, we will pick all the games again. We will have our point spreads. We are going to keep track of it for the first time in a couple of years. Yeah. Johnny will have the broadcasting crews. That's a fun thing we like to do every year.
Yes, I do have them all lined up, so stay tuned for that. I'm giving nothing away.
Also, Tom and I and a few others, we're going to do some shorts on fantasy. And then Nick D, who's going to be joining our network, will be doing some gambling segments. Football Friday is picking up, which means football content is picking up. So, like Johnny said, youtube.com/ETB Network and at ETB Network across all our platforms. But
right.
that's it.
Yeah, I think we're done with all the housekeeping. We're done with all the picks. It's been a combined near 5 hours for us of recording. So over these last 2 days, we had our AFC yesterday, the NFC one coming up today. Here, as we're about to enter the month of September, where football magic begins. So, for Nick Morgasen, for Johnny Montalbano, for Hank Indictor, I'm Tom Albano. Take care, everyone. Good night, and we will see you next week for week 1.
Happy football season!
Yes.
Woo!
See you next week, everybody.